Although there was a slight mistake in the middle, all in all, the rebellion on the moon was suppressed by Rayleigh alone. When the Black Bat and Medusa regained their sobriety, they ran to meet Kraft as soon as possible. "Thank you for your help." Adelan's official spokesperson Medusa dangled her arm and bowed slightly to Kraft and the others. "Ah. It's nothing." Kraft waved his hand in embarrassment. In fact, he originally wanted to run away while the two of them were unconscious, but the crystal entangled him and said that he wanted to repay them when the king woke up. Kraft thought for a while, if he could give part of Adelan's technology to the Earth, there would be a little more countermeasures in case of an alien invasion in the future, so this was the only way to stay. As a result, Medusa spoke first before he raised it. "It may be presumptuous to say that, can you contact the official organization of the Earth for us?" Immediately after Medusa, Adelan's current dilemma was revealed. With the gradual increase in the population of the Inhumans on the moon, Adelan's resources are somewhat insufficient. This is why they have to implement the caste system. The Black Bat King has intentions to change, but the Inhumans has a Gene Council that has been suppressing. Hold him. However, the Gene Council composed of most stubborn old people has been killed by angry people in this rebellion, and now the Black Bat King has finally found a chance to attack Adelan's system. Only after solving the system problem, they have to face the problem of lack of resources, and the emergence of Kraft gave the Black Bat King the idea of moving all the alien races back to Earth. But the return of Adelan to the Earth is not a simple matter. Whether the Earth countries will recognize the existence of Adelan in the alien race is a problem that must be resolved. On the other hand, although the Inhumans have higher physical fitness than the Earthlings, they also possess a variety of super abilities. At that time, their immune system was weaker than that of ordinary people. This is also the reason that the ancestors of the Inhumans chose to leave the Earth and go to the moon. The main reason for living. However, the Inhuman races nowadays can no longer take care of any immunity issues. If this continues, they will probably starve to death. There is no way to turn to Kraft. They take the initiative to return to Earth and the uncertainty factor is too high. If they are not careful, they will make things worse. And Kraft is not only the only Earthling they have come into contact with for so long, but his attitude is also relatively friendly, coupled with the power displayed by Rayleigh. This group of people are obviously not simple characters. So after a brief discussion between the Black Bat King and Medusa, they decided to turn to Kraft for help. "Isn't this a coincidence?" Kraft slapped his thigh and agreed, and said the ugly words to the front. "No problem. I do know some official forces, but they may need you to hand over Adelan's scientific and technological achievements in exchange." "It should be." Medusa and the Black Bat King looked at each other, nodded and said, "It's just that most of Adelan's technology is based on equipment abandoned by the Kree, a technology that can really be popularized. Probably not too much. You talk to the Shenluo Bureau on this issue, and I'm just acting as an intermediary." Kraft took out a universal capsule containing a quantum communication phone, and then called Zheng Xian. "Xiao Yi. Didn't you go to space? Why do you have the time to call me?" When talking to Kraft, Zheng Xian spoke in Chinese, while Li Yi was Kraft's Chinese name, which was printed on the ID card issued by Shen Spear Bureau. "Oh, I met a group of immigrants from Earth a long time ago on the moon. They recently planned to return to the Earth, so I'm here to lead you." After Kraft also answered Zheng Xian in Chinese, he translated it again in English to the Black Bat King and the others. "I have passed the specific information. You can check it out when you have time. In addition, their leader is nearby. You can chat with them." After speaking, Kraft handed the phone to Medusa. "Keep this mobile phone, so that you can contact the Magic Spear Bureau at any time." "Thank you very much." Both Black Bat King and Medusa gratefully bent their waists 90 degrees toward Kraft. After handing the phone to Medusa, Kraft took Rayleigh and Quinn around for a while in Adelan, and found that there was nothing fun here, so he hurriedly left. Black Bat King and Medusa are busy planning to migrate back to Earth, and Adelan really has nothing to entertain people, so they didn't do much to stay. After leaving Adelan, Kraft strolled around on the moon a little bit. He even went to the place where the Americans went to the moon and planted their flags and put away their flags. Anyway, their moon landing has been questioned by so many people, and Kraft just helped them sit down by the way. In addition, when visiting the moon, Kraft always felt as if someone was observing himself in secret, and tried to call Ancient One twice but did not respond at all. After that, Kraft used several kinds of detectors to scan the moon up and down, but still nothing was found. "Angela, turn on all the detectors." Kraft believed in his strange intuition, so he thought about it and came up with a new method. As all types of detectors on the cross were turned on, the detected readings were suddenly chaotic, because many detectors would interfere with each other. And in this chaos, there is a special place in all the detection reports that shows that it is completely normal, but this completely normal is the most abnormal at this time. Hey, I found you. Kraft wore good armor and brought Rayleigh and Quinn to that special place. Did you come out by yourself or did I force you out? Kraft took out a particle gun and aimed it at the empty ring pit in front of him. I don't know if Kraft's threat took effect, or for some other reason, the mysterious figure didn't seem to intend to continue hiding, and the scenery in front of Kraft began to twist. After a while, a strange humanoid creature with a tall stature, wearing a blue robe and a big bald head appeared in front of Kraft and the others. Ha ha ha. Big head. Big head. The shape of the creature in front of him is really funny. Rayleigh, who never hides his mind, pointed to the huge amounts of bald head and started to laugh. Sorry, Rayleigh is still young, she is not malicious, please forgive me. Kraft put away his gun and apologized to the man in front of Rayleigh. However, whether it was Rayleigh's ridicule or Kraft's apology, the blue-robed alien didn't make any response, just watched them quietly. Hello. Kraft scratched his head, then used light to form words from various countries to call the alien roar. Seeing that he still did not respond, he used the Elvish, Dwarf, Orc, Dragon, and foreign languages he learned in his dreams. Xingyu and so on have tried it again. Now the alien finally had some reaction. After seeing the densely packed hello, he showed a trace of surprise, and then there was no more. When Kraft was worried about how to communicate with the alien, Rayleigh, the bear kid, suddenly jumped out, pulled out his head and made a move at him, roar. How are you? But even if Rayleigh took off his head, the alien still remained calm and silent. How are you? How are you? How are you? However, Alalay, who has a streak, doesn't know what giving up is. She put her head back on her neck, and while shouting, how are you, she jumped around him, and finally even climbed to an alien. On the human body, he pulled his face and made all kinds of grimacing faces. Ha 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 ha. Rayleigh laughed loudly with the grimacing face she made, and then continued. Because Kraft was really curious about how this strange alien would react, he didn't stop Rayleigh's very rude behavior. And that alien is also a good-tempered, no matter how Rayleigh toss him, he will not say a word, standing there quietly. So Rayleigh's behavior became more and more excessive. She took out an oily pen from her pocket, and showed her artistic accomplishment on the head of this mysterious alien. Ha 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 ha. After drawing 3 lumps of poop, 1 eye, 6 beards, a pair of front teeth and a watermelon haircut on the alien's face, Rayleigh hugged his belly and laughed wildly on the ground. Even if he was treated like this by Rayleigh, the mysterious alien still did not express anything. He just blinked gently, and the graffiti on his face disappeared, and then he continued to quietly watch Rayleigh, who was still laughing wildly. The size of the universe. There are no surprises. Kraft couldn't help but sigh that there are such strange aliens. Could it be that this is some kind of popular performance art in the universe? Watching Rayleigh toss this strange alien for a while, Kraft started to feel a little bored, and the blue-robed man finally had other actions. He stretched out his hand and swiped it against the void. Suddenly, beside him, a huge light gate suitable for his tall man to pass through appeared out of nowhere. The blue-robed man took a look at Kraft, and then continued. Without a word, he turned and walked in. He asked me to follow him. Kraft scratched his head, and didn't feel the blue-robed man's malice, so he decided to follow it. And it won't work if you don't follow, because when the light gate just appeared, Rayleigh jumped in with joy and roar. Oh. A headache. No wonder that even Ancient One had a stomachache when he saw Rayleigh. Kraft sighed and walked into the light gate with Quinn, who was also eager to try. Ha 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 ha. As soon as I entered, I heard Rayleigh's laugh that never seemed to be tired, and the bald alien was floating not far away, with a huge amounts of light screen in front of him. Kraft and Quinn flew to the alien side together, and then the light screen began to play video. This video tells the origin of the bald alien in blue robe around him. This group of people claiming to be observers is a race that has existed since the birth of the universe, so their technology has been ahead of other intelligent life in the universe long ago. But observers believe that their knowledge and power belong to the universe, so after discovering other intelligent beings, observers chose to help them develop and progress. However, the development of the matter was very dramatic. The intelligent life helped by the observers progressed too rapidly in science and technology, causing their society to quickly degenerate and corrupt after reaching a subversion, and ultimately destroy their own planet. After this, the observers decided not to participate in any life matters in the universe, but to witness everything as a bystander. This is also the origin of the name of the observer. Well. How do you put it? Kraft pulled his chin and said in a careful tone, in my opinion, it's actually quite unnecessary. Too glassy. The observer still kept a calm expression and glanced at Kraft, then waved gently, and they were instantly transferred to the side of the Cross Pioneer. Well, advanced technology is not a lie. When being transferred away, Kraft's dreamland armor resisted, not to mention a reaction. But it's not bad. A race with such exaggerated technology has no ambitions, and even has a temperament that is a bit abnormal. This is also considered the luck of the universe. If the observers are the same as Thanos, Galactus and others, then there is no need to wait for Kraft to pass through. The universe would have been unified or destroyed by the observers a long time ago. Then again, since the observer's ability is so strong, you can just ignore them. Is it because it is troublesome, so just deal with me casually? The observer didn't speak from start to finish, and he didn't even have a few expressions. Kraft couldn't guess what the other person was thinking. But it didn't matter much anyway, so Kraft thought about it and didn't have a clue, so he stopped paying attention, and boarded the Cross Pioneer to return to Earth. It took Kraft a lot of time to watch the documentary with observers, and there was not much time for wandering around the Earth and the Moon, so I just went back to the Earth to get the reality gem. According to Ancient One, it is not difficult to obtain the reality gem, so Kraft didn't plan to bring Quinn and O'Reilly. He wore a good armor and got into an egg-shaped folding cabin. This is a fixed-point teleportation device made by Kraft imitating the technology of the Protoss. In fact, he also considered building the Spear of Arden first, but the thing is really too big, and it takes a lot of money to make it. Time. And if Kraft wanted to manipulate the Spear of Arden, he would have to make a few hundred more Harrows and matching humanoid mobile suits, so it could only be put on hold for the time being. Even if it does, Kraft intends to wait until the universe and establish the initial space base before slowly doing it. With the activation of the folding device, Kraft returned to his private laboratory on Earth. Welcome back, brother. Angela on the Earth showed a phantom and floated in front of Kraft. I don't know if there is schizophrenia in intelligent life. Kraft had such an idea inexplicably. Because he had gone to space with much fanfare before, Kraft came back this time to sneak into the village to shoot a gun. He didn't notify anyone, and sneaked to Great Britain by himself. Is it here? Kraft looked at the somewhat dilapidated building in front of him, and the data on the glasses showed that some spatial fluctuations had begun to occur nearby, accompanied by a small amount of gamma energy escape, and over time, the amplitude of the fluctuations and the reading of gamma energy is getting stronger. Kraft, who turned on the invisible force field, did not disturb the few street teenagers who were graffiti on the nearby wall. Following the data displayed on the glasses, he walked to the place with the strongest energy response. At this time, the nearby space was already distorted, and from time to time, rocks or other garbage drifted past Kraft. Brother, people outside also found that the situation here is wrong. It's okay. Kraft didn't care, anyway, waiting for those people to report to the British official, he had already run away with the reality gem. Take out a metal ball engraved with mysterious lines from the pocket. This is the magic item that Ancient One gave to Kraft to store TIE particles. The reality gem has not yet formed a solid form. If you touch it rashly, your body will be affected by it. Erosion. Anyway, Ancient One said so, Kraft has no reason not to believe it. Brother, Jane Foster is here. As Kraft waited for the critical point of the wave to arrive and opened the way to seal the TIE particles, Angela suddenly spoke. Jane Foster? Who is that? Kraft had no impression of the name. Thor's girlfriend on Earth. I remember, that hammer god should be more than 1,000 years old, right? This is not the old cow eating tender grass, this is the cow devil eating grass seeds. But it is also normal. Judging from the usual performance of the hammer god, his true intelligence should not exceed 10 years old. Kraft complained about Thor, and walked into the passage that had just been opened. Want to come to Asgard to get the reality gem because of that woman, right? Pooh. Don't even think about it. Kraft came to a quaint altar. The dark red liquid was slowly flowing in the gaps of the altar. He put the metal ball in his hand on the dark red liquid. The TIE particles in the liquid form seemed to be affected by something. Like the attraction, it quickly got into the metal ball. Think about it, I have seen 4 of the 6 infinite gems. If Thanos had the efficiency of my actions, would he have snapped his fingers? Kraft tossed the metal ball in his hand, turned and left here. At the same time, in the distant universe, Malkis, the leader of the Dark Elves, also woke up from his sleep. Ha 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 ha. O'Reilly's cheerful laughter constantly penetrated Kraft's ears, and he had to open the soundproof module of the goggles. After returning to the cross from Earth, he began to try to use the reality gem, but he has not made much progress so far. I don't know if it's because of keeping the TIE particles, or Kraft doesn't have the so-called Infinity Gauntlet as a carrier. Now he can only use TIE particles to create some non-living bodies that are inherent in reality, and they have to be something Kraft knew. Those special materials in the dream world can't be changed at all. Even if they are changed, they are just fakes with a single appearance. In fact, they are still colored glass or ordinary elements such as sodium, magnesium, aluminum, silicon, phosphorus. Do you want to feed it first? Ancient One once told him that if you touch Thai particles easily, it will parasitize the human body and absorb the vitality of the host. So it is likely that it needs to absorb enough vitality before it can be fully condensed? Kraft looked at the Thai particles tumbling in the energy hood, speculating. In fact, take a closer look, and in the dark red liquid that is tumbling, one can vaguely see a red glowing core, but Kraft has used many methods to extract it. So Kraft threw a white mouse into the energy mask that stored Thai particles. Thai particles quickly melted into the body of the white mouse. The mouse, which was still alive and kicking, instantly wilted. After a while, it lost its vital response and was quickly swallowed by the Thai particles in its body. Glancing at the monitor next to him, there is no change in the energy reading. Maybe a little white mouse has too little vitality. Kraft continued to feed Thai particles with various creatures. It was so wise to set up a pasture on the Cross Pioneer before. After smoking a dozen animals with a large file size and a small file size, the energy readings of Thai particles remained unchanged. That's right, it's called infinite gems anyway, it shouldn't be so low. Infinite gems is also a singularity fragment produced during the Big Bang. The normal operation of ordinary artifacts that need to be recharged and restored is a bit of a price drop on infinite gems. So how can Thai particles restore their true appearance and become a reality gem? Kraft rested his chin in thought. Big brother, go me. While Kraft continued to try other ways to test Thai particles, Quinn smashed the door of the laboratory and rushed in, then hugged his thigh. Kraft, who turned on the sound insulation, felt Quinn's touch, and then lowered his head, only to see the dog's mouth opening and closing to say something to himself. What are you talking about? I didn't hear it just now. He clicked in his ear and let the goggles return to a small patch and retracted into his ear. Kraft squatted down and touched Quinn's dog's head and said, Big brother Gugu, I am. Aurelie is really terrible. She cooks dark dishes for me, and gives me makeup with watercolor pencils, and just wanted to put me in a pot to cook. Quinn grievedly accused Kraft of Aurelie's criminal behavior. If Angela hadn't come out to stop him, he would have really become a dog meat pot. Looking closely at Quinn's dog face, Kraft found that it really had smeared marks on it. In fact, in order to prevent the Cross Pioneer from being accidentally broken by Aurelie, Kraft has replaced her with a relatively ordinary body. Anyway, her head is in a very unscientific plug-and-play mode, which is directly plugged into the remote control. There are no problems in the car. But Aurelie's strange power and firmness should be the same as the unscientific power in other dreams, belonging to a certain setting. Even if Kraft installed Aurelie's head on an ordinary humanoid mobile suit, that humanoid mobile phone suddenly became more powerful, gaining solidity far beyond its own material and quite exaggerated strength and speed. Although it is not as good as Aurelie's original body, there is no problem in breaking through the walls of the cross. In addition, Broken Star seems to be like a conceptual skill. Even if Aurelie is replaced with the weakest mechanical body, she can easily split a planet if she wants to. This illogical world is so unreasonable. However, Kraft continued to use the humanoid Ms. version of the body for Aurelie. Anyway, the usual damage to the cross would be a little bit smaller. Well, just a little bit. In addition, Kraft also discovered a hidden setting of Aurelie, cannot play Deadman, or that Aurelie's good boy instinct is telling her not to play Deadman lightly. Although the usual Aurelie is a king of destruction, she seems to be conceptualized in terms of attack. As long as she doesn't want to fight Deadman, no matter whether the target is strong or weak, and the output she uses is large or small, the opponent won't die even if she is beaten to fly for more than a kilometer. Will she die because of serious injury after? Definitely, it depends on the situation. So Kraft touched Quinn's head and said earnestly, Alalay has a sense of measure anyway, you have to trust my healing skills. Surprised, Quinn froze for a moment, then lay on the ground and began to spatter. Big brother, you have no heart. I'm just a dog, why should I bear this? Don't you have a battle armor? You should be able to protect it. Kraft thought for a while, and proposed to Quinn, or I am strengthening you. In addition, I will give you a symbiote so that you can. It's not easy to get hurt. I think there can be. Quinn immediately stopped howling and got up from the ground as soon as he turned over, shaking his tail and nodding his head frantically. I found it. Aurelie poked his head out from the door. Brother is also here. Let's play together. Angela. In order to prevent Aurelie from running to disturb him, he hid the passage to the laboratory, and Quinn was also found by Angela to let him go. Just now Aurelie accidentally knocked through the wall of the hidden passage while playing with the hellos. Angela's phantom shrugged and replied somewhat helplessly. Play together, play together, play together. Seeing Kraft ignoring himself, Rayleigh waved his hands in front of his eyes, entangled reluctantly. Good, good, let's play together. Kraft comforted Rayleigh, and then he gave an idea. Let's play peekaboo. Oh. Peekaboo. Peekaboo. As long as there is play, Rayleigh will not pick the content. Then Kraft tricked her into counting blindfolded, and took tie particles into a hidden laboratory. After figuring out Rayleigh's character, she was actually very foolish. Brother, you are too much. Angela, this sister, floated by Kraft's side, angrily roar complained for Alalay. You must know that she now has a mechanical body specially made to play with Alalay. That body also used the technology of making a Rayleigh, or the technology of a remote-controlled robot made by Zawan Chibe in the dream. The strength of Angela's robot body is also very exaggerated. Although it can't open the planet with bare hands like a Rayleigh, it's easy to destroy buildings and things. Thanks to Angela's restraint, the Cross Pioneer has been maintained in general. Whole. Ahem. I still have important research. Kraft sneered and defended himself. After I get the reality gem, I can play with her. Speaking counts. Angela carefully took down Kraft's promise, then brought up the radar screen on the computer, pointed to a red dot on it, and reported. In addition, brother, your experiment may be delayed for a while. There is an unknown ship. The warship is approaching us. Dark Elf. No matter what you think, it will appear near the solar system at this time, and will directly find Kraft's spacecraft, and only the Dark Elves will be the last owner of tie particles. 9 times out of 10, the other party's spacecraft is invisible. Obviously, it just didn't plan to communicate with us. Angela's expression looked very excited. Brother, are we going to fight the Dark Elves fiercely? By the way, I almost forgot that Angela is a slightly violent, pure girl. Kraft lifted his forehead and sighed. Then let's not move out. I'll give you permission to open all spaceships. You can direct the battle. But since Angela likes to fight, Kraft naturally wants to spoil him. As for the Omnic crisis or something, he hasn't considered this issue for a long time. Angela is a pure girl certified by Mind Gem. Great. Angela happily roared, and plunged into the computer next to him, and then a rapid alarm sounded inside the cross. Attention to all departments. Attention to all departments. There is an enemy at the right rear of the battleship. Please return all members to their positions and prepare for battle. Repeat again, please all members to return to their positions and prepare for battle. When Angela sounded the alarm, she specially shielded the area where Rayleigh and Quinn were, and asked them to fight against a group of remote-controlled robots in the area arranged by her. Kraft, who saw all this from the monitor of the host computer, was full of black lines, always feeling as if he had accidentally damaged Angela. Right full rudder. The ship turns around. At the moment, Angela, who was so excited, didn't know that Kraft was talking about herself in secret, learning the appearance of those captains in film and television dramas, turning her virtual appearance into a classic pirate captain's hat, and returning it to herself putting on a skull blindfold, floating in the main control room gave orders loudly. The Cross Pioneer, which was flying to the Kuiper Belt, suddenly made a sharp turn under Angela's control, and quickly pointed its bow at the Dark Elf mothership in the distance. The unusual movement of the Cross Pioneer naturally attracted the attention of the Dark Elves. Chief, we seem to have been discovered. Ready to fight. Malekith waved his hand and decisively ordered that the Dark Elves around him quickly ran into the fighter planes on the mothership, flew out of the mothership and rushed towards the Cross Pioneer. Then they didn't know what to think, and at the same time they attacked, they also closed the invisible force field, revealing those blade-shaped fighters and the huge amounts of T-shaped mothership. Maybe they think that if they are discovered, there is no need to be invisible again? Angela scratched her head like Kraft, thinking that the heads of this group of guys might not work well, and then Angela decisively dispatched her own Banshee fighters to fight. Definitely these Banshees must be hidden. Shaped. Enter the range, lock the target. Enter the range, lock the target. Before the fighters on both sides entered the fighting area, Harrow, who was in charge of the fire control department, flapped his wings and shouted. Angela won't let go of this good opportunity. She straightened the pirate hat on her head and waved her little hand with great momentum. The mega particle cannon is launched. The mega particle cannon is launched. The mega particle cannon is launched. The particle cannons mounted on the masts fired all at once, drew out several neat pink rays, swept away the blade fighters in front of the large area, and then blasted on the Dark Elf mothership. It's amazing that the Dark Elf's mothership didn't even have an energy shield, and several pits were bombarded by the particle cannon, but their mothership's armor was relatively strong, and the particle cannon could not penetrate it. After a volley, the Banshee fighters on Kraft's side also entered the range of fighting with the Dark Elf blade fighters. Under the remote control of the Haruos, the Banshee fighters opened fire one after another, and they would not be able to detect them. The Dark Elf was caught off guard. But soon, those blade fighters began to fight back. Those blade fighters rushed directly into the phalanx of banshee fighters. The long, knife-like wing shape is not a decoration. The dark elves lean on these blade fighters and rammed and rolled up and down in the banshee fighter planes. They even cut several banshees. What kind of messy tactics is this? Kraft and Angela complained at the same time. The brain problems of this group of dark elves are very serious. The fighters do not play long-range melee combat. This kind of strange thinking has not even been seen in Kraft's magical dream. And since the blade wing can be made so strong, why cut corners in the cockpit? The bullet of the banshee fighter hit the wing without any response, but as long as it hits near the cockpit, the blade fighter basically exploded. Kraft felt once again that the technology of these aliens was not as terrible as he thought. It is definitely possible that all the high technology of the Dark Elves is based on TIE particles, so after the loss of TIE particles, their technology has stagnated. Even because of the lack of TIE particles' energy supply, it's not necessarily that their technology has regressed. But then the Dark Elves' countermeasures denied Kraft's conjecture, among which all the blade fighters that rushed into the Banshee fighter group emitted a burst of red light, and then directly exploded into a cloud of red smoke. The smoke-emitting red light spread rapidly in the universe, forming a large area, and then the red light powder quickly contaminated the nearby Banshee fighters that were still invisible, rendering their invisible ability useless. At this time, the blade fighters in the rear fired together, launching a string of dark red light bullets, and shot down several Banshee fighters that could not evade. However, Kraft noticed that after a volley of fire, many blade fighters immediately turned around and returned to the Dark Elf mothership. Damn it. We don't have many fighters. Angela pouted and stomped her feet unhappily. Since Kraft has not had time to establish a base, the inventory of Banshee fighters is not too large, so after this round of salvo, the remaining Banshee fighters can no longer effectively contain the Dark Elves. But my brother didn't just make a few Banshees, send me all the spaceships that can fight. Because Dreamland technology cannot be mass-produced, the combat vehicles carried in the Cross Pioneer rarely have the same type, and even if there are, there will be basically no more than 3. Therefore, Angela's second force sent by the army has any kind of spacecraft, such as the Asparas Mini that Kraft used before, the Viking fighter from the Tyrone Federation, as well as the Swordfish E&YF. -29 Durandal, Pelican, Victory Flying Swallow, etc. Although Angela didn't quite understand Kraft's naming rule, it did not prevent her from commanding this group of miscellaneous ships and Dark Elf blade fighters. Although these crafts crafted by Kraft have their own merits, they are still much less in number than the Dark Elf blade fighters. Some of the less powerful ones were shot down after a short period of time under the suppression of the number, and those performances the better ones are just barely supporting them. Sure enough, if you only rely on Haro to control the spaceship, your spirituality is still slightly insufficient. Compared with Angela, Haro's intelligence is still too rigid, and their initial positioning is pets and assistants, so the upper limit is not high, and it is very difficult to improve. However, Angela had already been mentally prepared for this. She had not put the victory or defeat on the strength of the confrontation. Turn on the beam sail. The energy shield is fully opened. Charge me up. Angela, who was already in the play, conjured a cut-off scimitar for herself, yelling loudly while waving it. Kraft, who had come to the main control room long ago, rubbed his eyebrows, feeling that Angela's character was a bit off the mark, and it was no longer the indifferent and rational Red Queen in the dream. But Angela in this way is even cuter. Kraft silently recorded Angela's current appearance. These are all fond memories of his sister. Although Angela already knew about Kraft's arrival, she did not expect that this wicked brother was secretly recording his dark history. At the moment, she was immersing herself in her first space battle. Following Angela's order, the beam sail and energy shield on the Cross Pioneer were opened at the same time. On the warship wrapped in the oval energy shield, a huge pirate flag made of Minovsky particles spread out behind the mast. The Cross Pioneer, which was not slow, increased its speed by a large amount after the pirate flag was deployed, and rushed straight to the Dark Elf T-shaped mothership, which was much larger than itself, and at the same time, the machine guns loaded on the outside of the battleship also fired together, sweeping towards the surrounding blade fighters. As the Cross Pioneer advanced all the way, all the blade fighters it passed by exploded into groups of brilliant flames. Relying on its own combat power, the Cross Pioneer smashed out a long line from the Dark Elf fleet. Long gaps. Shoot that ship down for me. Malekis roared angrily in the mothership, and the remaining blade fighters opened fire at the same time as the mothership, and dense dark red light bombs poured toward the Cross Pioneer. However, under the control of Angela, the huge amounts of Cross Pioneer is like a dexterous swordfish, shuttled in the Dark Elf's firepower net, avoiding most of the attacks, and a small part of the light bombs hit. it can break through the faint energy shield surrounding the Cross Pioneer. Following a rapid rise of the Cross Pioneer, the warship that broke through the line of blade fighters quickly rushed to the top of the Dark Elf mothership. F*Kami, Goddess of Victory. The golden goddess statue under the bow suddenly blinked, and then fell off from the Cross Pioneer. Dozens of jets opened behind the huge body, pushing her onto the Dark Elf mothership. In the process of rushing towards the Dark Elf mothership, the Goddess of Victory's long skirt has long been changed into a tight leather style suitable for action, and the right hand has also become a sharp blade, which is straight while falling on the top of the T-shaped battleship, inserted into it. The Goddess of Victory waved her right hand violently and made a huge amount of gap on the battleship. The huge suction generated by the vacuum environment sucked a large amount of Dark Elves out of the battleship. At this time, I saw the Dark Elf mothership that represents the T-shaped vertical line and the severely damaged horizontal line suddenly separated. It turned out that Malekith saw the bad situation and very decisively abandoned the upper space of the mothership. And when the lower part of the mothership quickly moved away, the abandoned upper part of the mothership exploded, and the Goddess of Victory who was still staying on it was instantly blown into a pile of fragments. Don't even want to run. Angela is not worried about the situation of the Goddess of Victory. As long as a small part of the liquid robot is not completely wiped out, it will not die. Moreover, the Goddess of Victory was made entirely on the concept of weapons, without any emotional system at all, and the eye it carried was not even as good as Harrow in some respects. With its beam sail, the Cross Pioneer quickly caught up with the fleeing Dark Elf mothership, and the megaparticle cannon was fired at it one after another. Regardless of speed or dexterity, the mothership of the Dark Elves is not as good as the Cross Vanguard, so these megaparticle cannons can be eaten every time it hits the ground. After the bombing, it became tattered in a short while. Malekith, the leader of the Dark Elves, did not think of using other means to escape the pursuit of the Cross, but the blade fighter could not shake the protective cover of the Cross whether it was shooting or striking. You know that Kraft installed all the shields that can be installed on the Cross Pioneer. The Dark Elves finally broke the particle shield. Angela propped up the electromagnetic barrier again, and when the electromagnetic barrier was broken, Angela again the Iron Curtain device was turned on, and when the time for the Iron Curtain device was over, the particle shield was recharged again. Even if the Dark Elves have ability to break through these three types of shields in a short period of time, there are a large number of defense methods on the Cross Vanguard, such as an enlarged version of the approximate invincible belt, lambda driver force field, deflection shield, and so on. This is also the reason why Kraft let Angela play freely. With these defensive devices and acceleration methods that have not had the opportunity to show, the Cross Pioneer is already invincible. It is precisely because of this that even though the Dark Elves have far surpassed Kraft's side, they have nothing to do with the Cross Pioneer. They can only watch their mothership being beaten up and running. 70 falling scenes. Don't kill them all. I also want to ask them how to control TIE particles. Kraft looked at Angela who had already added prosthetic legs and hook hands to herself, and could not help but reminded Angela, who was getting more and more emotional. Don't worry, brother. I remember it. Angela patted her chest with her newly added hook hand. Pirates' main business is robbery, not murder. I won't forget this. So what did you remember? Kraft pinched his eyebrows speechlessly, and suddenly missed the well-behaved Alice. On the other hand, Angela, as a newly promoted space pirate captain, has not forgotten her professional training. Even if Kraft did not remind her, she did not intend to destroy the Dark Elf mothership directly, otherwise she would not let the Goddess of Victory in the first place. Played. In the latter part of the pursuit, she also only used the secondary artillery to attack, otherwise the Dark Elf mothership would not last so long. After using the secondary battery to destroy the power system of the Dark Elf mothership, turning it into a large coffin that can only drift in the universe, Angela sent a message to the Dark Elf to persuade her to surrender. I am Angela, the Queen of the Universe. Pirate Red. You are already surrounded by us. Put down your weapons and surrender now. We treat the captives. Repeat. Put down your weapons and surrender immediately. We treat the captives. Hearing Angela's words to the Dark Elf, Kraft raised his forehead and sighed. You are not a pirate's line at all, my silly sister. I don't know if Angela's words were effective, or the Dark Elves wanted to change the situation by the battle of the ship. Anyway, after the mothership was captured, the blade fighters no longer attacked the Cross Vanguard and the different styles of spacecraft have returned to the mothership. The Dark Elf was also connected to the communication sent by Angela, and a figure with his head lowered appeared on the screen. With their heads down, Kraft and the others couldn't see each other's faces, only the pointed ears and the head without hair. In addition, the skin of these so-called Dark Elves is actually very close to humans, unlike the Proxima Midnight Elves or Drow Elves that appeared in Kraft's dream. However, in his dreams, he had also seen some cases that claimed to be dark elves but had fair skin, and he had seen the appearance of these dark elves in Ancient One before, so he was not surprised by this. I am Male Kiss, the leader of the Dark Elves. I am very sorry to offend you, we. Speaking. Malekith slowly raised his head, and then saw Angela, who was wearing a captain's cap and an eye mask, one hand with a hook and one foot with a wooden stick. Malekith was stunned. What he wanted to say lingered on his lips for a long time but couldn't say it. After all, anyone who sees that the person who beats him is a cute-looking but funny-looking little girl will doubt his life. Malekith is no exception. However, Malekith is also a person who has seen the world. There are many strange life in the universe, and there are not no races that have been in a juvenile form, so he recovered after a while. We just want to find TIE particles, the lost treasure of our clan, for which I am willing to pay any price. After discovering that the other party did not seem to be in Asgard, Malekith decided to try the negotiation first to see if he could use peaceful means to return to the TIE particles. Who would let them beat the other party. In fact, in terms of individual strength, even if there is no TIE particles in hand, Male Kiss will not lose to Thor's combat effectiveness, but what is very reluctant is that the Dark Elves do not have the ability to survive in the universe. At this time, their individual, no matter how strong it is, it doesn't make sense. Do you have a brain problem or an ear problem? Angela flicked the brim of the pirate hat on her head, raised her little chin and assumed a look of contempt. With the appearance of her little girl, she didn't have much domineering, but she looked very cute. I said that we are cosmic pirates, and now we are going to rob you of your finances, so you still want to take things from me? Do you want to lose face when I'm red? Facing the aggressive Angela, Malekith really wanted to have a seizure, but when he thought of the situation of the Dark Elf, he could only endure it with a stubborn stomach. The soldiers of the Dark Elves now have such a ship. Although TIE particles are also very important, if Malekith wants revenge on Asgard, TIE particles alone are not enough. The survival of the Dark Elves is equally important. What do you want? We Dark Elves have been oppressed by the Asgard for thousands of years. There is no treasure at all. The only treasure is the TIE particles in your hands. The ugly-faced Malekith said unwillingly, although this would make the Dark Elves very faceless, but he did not think that he was a liar, and their Dark Elves now have nothing to tell, except for TIE particles. Besides, that is, the Dark Elf originally. The fighting power of the Dark Elves is still a bit well known in the Nine Realms, especially the cursed warriors they made by using TIE particles. Thousands of years ago, they were nightmarish existences in the eyes of other beings in the Nine Realms. Do you want to sell my people? Malekith was silent for a moment, and said in a deep voice, I can only give you 300 people at most. It's hard to survive. Malekith is definitely lying. It's true that the Dark Elves soldiers only have such a ship left, but these are just soldiers. There are still a large number of civilians in their hometown of Dark Elves, Walter Alheim. He would say that, in fact, he was selling to Angela. After all, Angela was just a little girl from the outside, and the character she showed was not like a scheming guy, so try to see if there is any loss. Who wants your people? Angela said angrily, roar roar, I am a cosmic pirate with professional ethics. I will not do human trafficking. What I want is your technology. No matter it is hand over all spacecraft technology, weapon technology or energy technology to me. Just technology? Malekith doubted his ears. Because in his opinion, this inexplicable cosmic pirate can easily defeat their Dark Elves troops, so it must be far superior to them in terms of armed technology, and it is completely impossible to take a fancy to their technology. Definitely. I only need your technology and all the information related to TIE particles. Angela replied very positively. Please wait. Although I don't know why the other party made this request, Malekith definitely couldn't ask for it in this situation. It seemed that he was afraid that Angela would change his mind. He quickly ordered his subordinates to sort out the information and pass them to Angela. Even Malekith took the initiative to send someone to bring all the weapons and equipment, and send it to the Cross Pioneer with a blade fighter. As for the information on TIE particles, Malekith is not stingy. After all, the chance of getting back TIE particles is very slim. Don't say they can't beat them. Even if they can beat them, the opponent's ship will only need to open the beam sails. If they run, they can't catch up at all. In fact, Malekith had thought carefully about sending equipment. He told his subordinates to see if they could find a chance to capture the opponent directly when handing over them. But it is a pity that the soldier who sent the equipment back told Malekith that he hadn't seen the master at all, and it was a remote-controlled robot that was handed over to him. But Malekith hadn't given much hope for this. When they couldn't get TIE particles, their Dark Elves had to find other ways to find Asgard's revenge. Thinking of this, Malekith suddenly said to Angela, Odin unified the 9 worlds back then, and Asgard's treasure house is filled with the spoils he collected. Such an obvious murder with a knife would definitely be seen by Angela, but Malekis didn't care. If the other party really wanted to be a cosmic pirate, they would not be able to let go of Asgard's wealth. Hey. Angela didn't disappoint him, and said with a chuckle, in the future, we will definitely go to Asgard. Kraft did not give up his plan to trouble Loki, and Angela naturally supported his decision 100%. Malekis raised his mouth, and as long as it was something that could trouble Asgard, it would make him happy. Then, can we go? Your Red Queen. Malekis kept smiling and lowered his posture to ask Angela for instructions. Let's go. Angela, who was already enjoying herself, waved her hand, and at the same time controlled the Cross Pioneer to turn around, and continued to fly towards the Kuiper Belt. Have fun? Kraft, who had been on the sidelines before and gave everything to Angela, asked with a smile. Angela grinned and nodded vigorously. So, did you forget something? Forgot what? Angela lightly nodded her lips with her finger. If Goddess Victory, I have asked the Haruos to collect it. The Dark Elf information is also available. What were you doing before the Dark Elf came? Kraft reminded. Before they come. Angela froze for a moment, her expression suddenly embarrassed. Sister Aurelie and Quinn. Although Angela had forgotten Aurelie and Quinn because he was passionate about fighting, in fact, the big heart Aurelie did not realize that she was fooled by her unscrupulous brother and sister. Instead, she was peeking out. After the end, he happily praised Angela for being good at peekaboo. This makes Angela even more embarrassed. As for Quinn's stupid dog, it seemed to have found something, but Kraft just gave him something to eat and fooled it. The stupid dog was as easy to deal with as always. Although Aurelie was easily fooled this time, Kraft felt that it seemed like it was no way to go on like this. Alalay is an energetic bear girl. As long as the energy in her body is not exhausted, she can play for a whole day without getting tired. Even if she has already explained to her, pay attention to the severity, but with her generous personality, there is no limit at all. Since leaving the Earth to the present, the Cross Pioneer has undergone 6 major repairs, and there are countless little troubles such as repairing wall holes and floor cracks. This is still useless in Aurelie's original body, and there are situations where Angela suppresses. Even so, she greatly slowed the progress of the cross. But if Kraft didn't charge her after Aurelie's energy was exhausted, he couldn't bear it, and Angela might not agree to do so. Therefore, after thinking about it for a long time, Kraft specifically put aside his work, based on a completely networked virtual space sneak game terminal named Nerve in the Dreamland, to create a world where Aurelie can play at will. As for the NPCs in the game, they are handed over to Angela and Haro to play. Anyway, it is to prepare a few more hosts for Angela, and Kraft sometimes wears a helmet and enters. Play with Aurelie in the game world. It's worth mentioning that, even if Aurelie's physical attributes are set for ordinary people in the virtual world, she can still easily split the land and run out of the sonic boom, the single-digit ones in the stats panel. The value seems to be laughing at Kraft. But Kraft didn't care too much about it. Anyway, this game was made for Aurelie, and her destructive power was not too important. Definitely, Kraft doesn't plan to keep Aurelie indulging in the virtual world, because if she gets used to the behavior that can be destroyed at will in the virtual world, it will be a complete disaster when she returns to reality. Therefore, Kraft also made some restrictions on Aurelie's game time, even if this would allow the cross to continue to undergo overhauls from time to time for this and other reasons. After having this virtual world for Aurelie to enjoy himself, Kraft was finally able to calm down and study the various techniques he obtained from the Dark Elves. Kraft is not mistaken. Most of the Dark Elves' technology is based on TIE particles. In the absence of TIE particles, their technology has hardly made any progress in these thousands of years. This is also the reason why they lost to the Cross Pioneers so easily. After losing the TIE particles, the combat effectiveness of their fleet plummeted, and ability could only play about half of what it had originally been. Although the Dark Elves have tried to reform in these thousands of years, the technological tendency of a race that has been developed for many years has not changed so well. After the defeat, they have been suppressed by Asgard, and there is no room for redevelopment. And even if Kraft has TIE particles in his hands, the power of these technologies that have not been developed for many years will not be much stronger. The technology of the Curse Warrior is also tailored specifically for the Dark Elves. For the development of TIE particles, the Dark Elves are actually very rough extraction of the power, and then use its power to change reality to strengthen the creatures and weapons. The space jumping technology that Kraft wanted most, the Dark Elves did not even have a settlement. To put it bluntly, among a series of aborigines in the solar system, apart from Kamar Taj's portal with space jumping technology, there is only Bifrost of Asgard. Looking at a bunch of information, the only technology in the hands of the Dark Elves that is more useful for Kraft is the kind of technology called Black Hole Grenade. This kind of grenade is driven by a certain amount of TIE particles to create a small range of black holes to swallow the enemy. Although the range is not large, the lethality is considerable, which means that it consumes a lot of TIE particles. But what Kraft needs is not the lethality of the black hole grenade, but the black hole it creates. In dreams, the GN particles, which are more versatile than Minovsky particles, are made by black holes. Instead of spending time and effort to capture small black holes, it is better to make a black hole yourself. And because the black hole is made by itself, the risk is more controllable. So Kraft didn't think about how to restore TIE particles to reality gem for the time being, but started extracting TIE particles according to the method provided by the Dark Elves. Before officially making the GN solar furnace, Kraft also made a black hole grenade for testing according to the information provided by the Dark Elves to prevent Malekis from doing anything in the data. It was just a set of tests. There was nothing unusual. Is the Dark Elves such a sincere race? Kraft scratched his head. Many of the Dark Elves in the Dreamland were all lie back and forth. In fact, it is not that Malekis and the others believe it, but the technological power displayed by Kraft, which makes Male Kiss feel that he will be easily spotted if he does his hands and feet. When the time comes, they will be investigated for the Dark Elves. It's all gone. However, Kraft didn't know this, but he didn't care. Since it's definitely better to have no hole, Kraft finally started to make a black hole enough to produce GN particles. Angela, closed laboratory. Be prepared for disposal at any time. Black holes are very dangerous. After extracting enough TIE particles and putting them into the manufactured black hole generator, Kraft, who was remotely operating outside the laboratory, ordered. The hatch is closed and the ejection device is tested normally. Brother, you can continue the experiment. With the closure of several metal doors and the opening of the energy barrier, Angela is also ready to eject the laboratory at any time. Kraft turned on the black hole generating device, and saw the device explode instantly. However, the flame of the explosion did not spread much before it retracted. The space in the center of the laboratory was distorted due to gravitational collapse, and a black hole formed quickly, attracting everything around you. Kraft outside the laboratory opened the black hole capture device made based on the knowledge of Iolia Schuckenberg in the dream at the moment the black hole was formed. One thing to say is that Kraft never thought that black holes could be captured before. However, Dreamland technology is such a science in Kraft's nervous gaze. The raging black hole in the laboratory was easily trapped by the black hole capture device, and then sealed in a metal can that was prepared a long time ago. I actually did it. Kraft sighed once again, the magic of Dreamland technology. He didn't rush to get the metal jar that encapsulated the black hole, but planned to observe it for a while. After observing for 2 days, the metal jar still did not respond. Kraft walked into the laboratory and brought the metal jar with the black hole to the GN solar furnace manufacturing room that was prepared a long time ago. In the laboratory simulating Jupiter's gravity, a cone-shaped GN solar furnace is gradually taking shape. With the appearance of fluorescent green photons, it represents that Kraft has successfully replicated GN particles with strong applicability from the dream. It also means that the Cross Pioneer has a new protective shield. Manhattan, New York. Peter Parker and Harry Osborn are standing back to back wearing battlesuits, and they are facing their respective old rivals Dr. Octopus and Diongwangren after the Battle of New York, as well as the new supercriminals Vulture and Thriller. New York is really troubled recently. After the aliens invaded, a large number of criminals and foreign spies poured into New York, all wanting to get a piece of the equipment left by the aliens. At this time, there was another problem inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Hawkeye, Black Widow, and Captain America were all transferred back to Washington to deal with the Hydra problem. After solving the internal problems, they did not relax, but chasing the fish that slipped through the net everywhere. Steve Rogers even met his former friend James Buchanan Barnes, who was brainwashed by Hydra into a Winter Soldier in this operation. After the operation, Tony Stark first helped S.H.I.E.L.D. to lock the hidden Hydra, and then went into the laboratory with Bruce Banner to develop their Ultron system. After the Hydra incident, both he and Dr. Banner think that the emergence of Ultron has no time to delay. In addition, Thor finally moved after hard work. Odin sent him to the Earth, but he came to Earth to have a love affair with Jane Foster, and he had no intention of helping the Earth deal with criminals. According to Thor, the Asgard are only responsible for dealing with threats outside the Earth, and the internal struggles of the Earth are not under their control. So although the Avengers building was built in New York, in fact, the only ones who are still doing hero work are the 2 underage little guys, Shining Locust and Spider-Man. As for the new hero group Fantastic Four, they are too busy just to solve the mess that they have caused. Sometimes Peter can't figure out whether Dr. Reed and the pesky guy named Thunderbolt are superhero, criminal. Fortunately, the existence of Martin Lee made the group of gang members in Hell's Kitchen throw a rat and treat. Otherwise, at the moment when the League of Defenders is temporarily disbanded, it is estimated that Peter and Harry will have to face a few more enemies. However, the current situation is also choking. Originally, no matter which one of these four people, it was already difficult to deal with individually. Now that the four people have formed an alliance, their strength has improved a lot. Especially these four people are not Tai Hanhan, who only knows how to fight, smash and rob. Each has its own good points, and their respective equipment has been greatly improved under the complementarity. Hey, Shining Locust, have you used your upgrade coin? Peter Parker tilted his head slightly and asked his friend behind him in a low voice. Used. Harry Osborn's answer was gnashing his teeth. Peter, who had experienced the same, was very wise not to ask why. That's good, at least the threat to us by the electro-optical people is not big. Let's quickly solve the horror, and then you will deal with Vulture. I will be in charge of Dr. Octopus. After being a superhero for so long, and participating in many missions with S.H.I.E.L.D., Peter Parker at the moment has accumulated a lot of experience. He quickly made a judgment and assigned the mission to Harry. Don't underestimate Diongguang Man, I have never seen the suit on him before. Harry Osborn reminded in a deep voice that he had also played against the electric guy after the belt upgrade. Although he is no longer afraid of electric shocks, the opponent is still very difficult. Now he has an additional battlesuit after forming an alliance with Dr. Octopus and others. He had a vague premonition in his heart. But he didn't have a better plan for a while, so he can only remind Peter not to ignore the Electric Man. I see. Peter nodded, focusing part of his attention on the Electric Man, and then yelled, "Do it!" While saying, "Hands," Peter Parker rushed to the horror like an arrow from the string, while turning his wrists at Dr. Octopus and Vulture, shooting 2 spider webs respectively. On the other side, Harry also stepped on the skateboard under his feet, and while turning to the side of horror, he threw pumpkin bombs and flying darts at the Electric Man and Dr. Octopus. Facing the cobweb coming from the cover, Dr. Octopus and Vulture did not evade, but each sprayed a green flame. Peter's cobweb quickly burned after being exposed to this green flame. The pumpkin bombs and flying darts that Harry threw were also blocked by mechanical tentacles and electric lights. The horror of being under siege was also calm and unhurried. He fisted and a powerful shockwave spread around him, pushing the Spider-Man and the Shining Locust away. Fighting against you so many times, how could we not have other preparations? Dr. Octopus clamored loudly. In order to target Spider-Man's web, the four of them developed a special flame together. Its fuel contains some ingredients that can neutralize cobweb, making Spider-Man's cobweb can be easily ignited. In addition, they also upgraded their equipment in order to be able to solve the 2 superheroes, Spider-Man and Shining Locust, which have been troubled by them. Take it to death. You 2 little bugs. Dr. Octopus controlled the mechanical tentacles and smashed at Peter Parker. The tentacles tore the air and made a terrible roar howl. Peter quickly raised his arms to block, but found that the strength of Dr. Octopus's mechanical tentacles was much greater than before. Peter was momentarily negligent and staggered. Wow. Your strength has increased. Even if he is at a disadvantage, Peter Parker does not forget his idiots. But the horror on the side at the moment took the opportunity and hit Peter, who was standing unstable, with a shockwave, and hit him hard in the abdomen. Wow. Peter under the mask only felt his stomach churning and couldn't help but spit out a big mouthful of sour water. Because the armors of Spider-Man and Shining Locust are both amazingly defensive, under the teamwork of these villains, they have added a new shock mode to the thrilling shockwave. The damage of this new shockwave is not high, but unless it is a vibranium armor or a shock-resistant armor made specifically for him, this shockwave can oscillate into the internal organs through the armor, making the opponent easily lose action. Ability. After spitting out a mouthful of sour water, Peter Parker did not feel much better. His entire stomach was still tumbling, making him unable to exert any strength at all, but fortunately, the spider gene strengthened his physique. Before the second shockwave came, after finally regaining some strength, a rollover escaped the terrifying pursuit. Oh, damn, I think we are in big trouble. Peter looked at the Dr. Octopus who was surrounding him and murmured in horror. On the other hand, Harry Osborn also fell into a bitter battle. Although Vulture's wings were more flexible and quicker than before after the upgrade, Harry was able to cope with it with his own Locust skateboard, and even slightly gained the upper hand. However, besides Vulture, there was also an Electric Man who hated him so much. After the belt upgrade, it is true that Harry can ignore a large part of the electric shock damage, but in addition to the electric shock caused by the Electric Man, the electric shock also has a strong impact, which can have a lot of impact on his movements. With the cooperation of Vulture and the Electric Man, Harry quickly fell into a disadvantage. Come and taste the attacks of your own people. When Harry was entangled in Vulture's hands and feet, The Electric Man grabbed the wrist of his right hand with his left hand, and then pointed the palm of his right hand at Harry Osborn. As the arc jumped, the armor of the Electric Man's wrist opened, and a metal nail was shot out from it, piercing Harry with a blue electric light. "Look at my electromagnetic cannon." The electromagnetic cannon used by the Electro-Optical Man was made by Dr. Octopus based on the super electromagnetic cannon used by Quinn before. He was very afraid of this weapon that could almost interrupt his mechanical tentacles, so after meeting the Electro-Optical Man, the first what time thinks is whether you can copy one. It's a pity that Dr. Octopus doesn't have a dream power bonus. Although a very similar electromagnetic cannon has been developed according to the electromagnetic coil theory, it is much weaker than Quinn's super electromagnetic cannon in terms of power. But even so, its lethality is definitely not to be underestimated, not to mention that the metal nail was made by vibranium for a large price. Driven by electromagnetic force, the vibranium spike pierced Harry Osborn's heart fiercely. Although he sensed the danger, at the moment, he had lost his center of gravity and could only reluctantly deflect his body to avoid the vitals. Oh! Harry Osborn, who was hit, let out a scream. The vibranium spikes lived up to the expectations of the villains. They pierced the Shining Locust's armor, plunged into Harry's shoulder blades from behind, and penetrated through the front of the chest. Shining Locust and Spider-Man battlesuit defenses are good, but due to the design, the armor of the battlesuit is not too thick. In addition, in order to take into account other aspects, the strength of the alloy used by Kraft is slightly lower than that of vibranium. So Harry was injured by the vibranium spike is definitely a matter of course. Wow. Hee hee. Hey. With a big hole in his chest, Harry spit out a mouthful of blood, and the scene in front of him gradually became blurred. Harry. Peter Parker tried to rush over, but was blocked by Dr. Octopus in horror. Am I dying? In Harry Osborn's ears, Peter's eager roar shout and the arrogant laughter of the electro-optical guys seemed so far away. Just as Harry Osborn's consciousness gradually blurred and he was about to plunge into darkness, the familiar electronic sound of his belt suddenly rang in his ears. It is detected that the user has entered a near-death state, and the emergency system is activated. Then Harry Osborn felt that his back was pierced by something, and his vague consciousness suddenly became a lot clearer. After giving Harry Osborn a therapeutic shot, the electronic sound of the belt was immersed, and then Nonako's voice sounded in the battlesuit. The emergency module has been activated, Battlesuit Nonako is automatically matching, and the applicable coins are retrieved. The selected scheme, Spider Coin, Symbiote Coin, dual loading. Dark blue mucus emerged from the belt, wrapped Harry Osborn in it, and then quickly formed a dark blue battlesuit similar to the tights made by Peter himself. The pattern is very classic. Cobweb increases the white spider logo. It's just that the eyes of the battlesuit still have a red mesh pattern, and there are two short antennae on the forehead, which can be regarded as retaining a small part of the characteristics of locusts. I'm all right. Harry jumped up from the ground and touched his chest uncertainly. The body that had been pierced by the vibranium spikes at the moment had fully recovered, and at the same time he felt that his physical fitness had improved a lot. But then again, can the coins in the original belt be double-loaded? Yes, because Master, you have been stupidly not asking me, so I have no chance to tell you this function. Nonako is as poisonous as ever. Obviously, I have suffered a loss in stealth mode before, and I haven't learned a lesson yet. Who knows what pit Kraft is still burying in this belt? Harry Osborn knew he couldn't noisy Nonako, so he could only mutter silently in his heart. Hey, Shining Locust, how do you wear my clothes? Peter, who had been paying attention to this place, saw that Harry was out of danger, and couldn't help but ridicule when he was relieved. Don't you have my clothes too? Harry Osborn raised his middle finger to Peter Parker angrily. I didn't know you still have this battlesuit. Peter Parker had seen Harry transforming when he used his spider coin before. The battlesuit at the time was not in this shape. But now was not the time to ask about these details. Seeing that Harry is okay, Peter said a few words and immediately concentrated on dealing with Dr. Octopus in the horror. Peter, who owns spider telepathy, does have a considerable advantage in actual combat. After he was alert to the new tricks of horror, he quickly pulled the disadvantage back. Although he still couldn't beat the two, he was still able to beat them. It's easy to attack in the middle of the attack. In contrast, Harry Osborn was much worse. Although he changed a new battlesuit and improved a lot of his physical fitness, he still seemed a little frantic under the attack of Vulture and the electro-optical guy. So soon, Harry revealed another flaw. Max, the electro-optical man who hated Osborn, didn't know how Harry recovered before, but it did not prevent him from continuing to kill Harry Osborn, who had turned into a dark blue Spider-Man. Die me. Another shot of vibranium spikes was launched, and this time the electro-optical man aimed at Harry Osborn's head. I don't believe you can live if you get beaten in your head. The electric guy stared at Harry Osborn viciously, roaring in his heart. And the second vibranium spike also pierced into Harry Osborn's head, just as the electro-optical man expected. But no drop of blood came out. Oh, it hurts me to death. Under the surprised eyes of a group of people, Harry screamed painfully and grabbed the spike in his head, then pulled it out. The dark blue ooze quickly filled the wound on Harry's head, returning to his previous round and slippery appearance. What monster are you? This weird phenomenon caused Max the Electric Light Man to scream, and he subconsciously stepped back. On the contrary, Vulture, who often flies around, knows Harry's situation. He once saw a black monster calling himself Venom in San Francisco. It had almost the same ability as Harry in front of him. I have seen a similar existence in San Francisco. It must be another human experiment conducted by Osborn. Vulture gritted his teeth and said to Dian Guang Ren that he had almost gone bankrupt because of the intervention of Stark Industries, and he had no good impressions of these giant companies. In addition, Vulture doesn't understand the existence of symbionts, so after thinking about Osborn's main product regeneration medicine, it is hard not to have such a guess. The mutation that Dianguang Man had caused by accidentally falling into the electric eel pool where Osborn was conducting biological experiments, naturally believed Vulture's guess all at once. Can a villain like you be a superhero? The two super criminals asked Harry Osborn with contempt of geology. Harry Osborn. The battle between the 6 people continued, and Harry and Peter were still at a disadvantage. Although there is a symbiote battlesuit, Harry Osborn is no longer in danger of life, but he can't beat him. Under the beating of Vulture and the electric guy, Harry Osborn can only be chased and beaten by them. In particular, Harry also found that when the electric shock of the electro-optical person produced high heat, his battlesuit had an obvious fear response, and after being injured by the high temperature, the recovery speed was obviously much slower. Had Harry not been clever enough to cover up this situation, he would have been defeated by the combination of Vulture and Dianguang now, but if this continues, it will be discovered sooner or later. Sure enough, there is no perfect armor, Harry Osborn whispered. In fact, he and Peter are also developing battlesuits privately. After all, Kraft's battlesuits will pit them together when they can't tell. In this case, they don't want to get rid of the Knight's belt. That's not normal. But it is a pity that both the combat power and the convenience of the battlesuit make it difficult for the two to give up the Knight belt made by Kraft. Boom. Dianguang used electromagnetic force to pull a piece of reinforced concrete and threw it over, smashing Harry, who was a little distracted, while Vulture took the opportunity to dive down from the side and used the metal claws built by the 4 of them to hold Harry firmly locked. See if you can recover after throwing you down into a puddle of mud. Vulture smirked and grabbed Harry Osborn and climbed high. Oops. Harry's Locust skateboard had already been destroyed by the Electric Man, and he didn't know whether the battlesuit made by Kraft could recover himself from the mud. But Harry didn't want to gamble, so he struggled frantically. The huge amounts of power made the Vulture flying upwards start to sway from side to side, and a pair of metal claws also tended to be propped up. Damn. The strength is so great. Vulture realized that even if he went on like this, he might fall together, so he let go of Harry Osborn decisively. Harry breathed a sigh of relief after being dropped, then shot cobwebs into the building below, quickly weaving a buffer net. After Vulture stabilized his figure in the air, he rushed to the buffer net, trying to burn it. But at this moment, Peter finally got rid of the entanglement between Dr. Octopus in the horror, and kicked the dived Vulture. Harry, do you have a good way? Can't go on like this. After kicking Vulture, Peter rolled over and fell to Harry's side. Seeing the 4 super criminals who surrounded them again, Peter's mood gradually became impatient. Although he and Harry could choose to escape temporarily, they must let these 4 criminals go with impunity in New York, and they had to avoid Dr. Octopus and others until a solution was found. But such a choice Peter Parker can't make, even if it is considered from a rational point of view. This is the best way. Should we ask Battlesuit? Before being poisoned by Nanako, Harry also remembered it, so he suggested that. This is not the time to worry about what pit that Kraft has buried. Harry and Peter hadn't asked about I before. It's not that they didn't think about it, but that Kraft was terrified. What if there is another shameful voice unlocking method? Well, I got it. Peter also made up his mind. The big deal is that Kraft will laugh at him later, but he hasn't experienced it. So the two asked their respective ice with a look of death. Kazuna Nanako, is there any way to greatly increase the combat effectiveness of the battlesuit? It is recommended to turn on the super transformation mode. Kazuna and Nanako both gave the same answer. What the hell is the super transformation mode? Suddenly there is a hidden function that I haven't heard of when upgrading the belt, and it sounds quite dynamic. Peter and Harry hesitation again. Can you introduce the super transformation mode? Peter decided to slow down first. Anyway, they can still Dr. Octopus and they continue to stand in a stalemate, so it's better to ask first. It's a good thing. The answer to Peter is not Kazuna, but the recording that Kraft has already stored in it. This is a very scary mode. After it is turned on, even Hulk can beat Hulk, which is the consequence. It will be a bit serious, please think twice. Sure enough, there is a pit. Kraft's voice is full of malicious in the recording. Is Peter Parker too familiar? Oh, yes, Kraft's recording was not over yet, and he added as if thinking of something. I can give you a hint, which is related to the 2 golden upgrade coins. Upgrade coins? Peter Parker recalled that the 2 golden coins had a crown and a candy pattern. It felt like there was something special. Harry, what do you think we should do? We don't know. Harry Osborn, who also heard the Kraft recording, smiled bitterly. In fact, he also knows that if he wants to solve the 4 criminals in front of him, the super transformation mode will be used sooner or later, but the current situation is not so urgent, so he and Peter will always want to delay. On the other side, the 4 super criminals suddenly stopped their attacks and began to retreat after discovering that Spider-Man and the Shining Locust were unexpectedly difficult. Dr. Octopus still yelled loudly. We don't have so much time to spend here with these 2 little bugs. It's better to go directly to Osborn's laboratory to grab their inventory. Anyway, these 2 little bugs can't stop us. Damn it. Peter hurriedly shot a few cobwebs and stuck the vulture flying in the sky, and then rushed to the Dr. Octopus nearest to him. Even if they had guessed that this was a plot by Dr. Octopus and others to force themselves to fight them head-on, Peter Parker had to stop them. Ha ha ha. You so-called superhero are so easy to be fooled. Dr. Octopus turned around, and the mechanical tentacles that had already been ready to go slammed into the attacking Spider-Man. The impatient Peter didn't have enough time to dodge, he could barely raise his arms in front of him, and then was severely drawn into the building on the side. The Thriller and the Electric Man who wanted to leave also turned around at the same time, and fired electromagnetic cannons and huge amounts of shockwave into the big hole smashed by the Spider-Man. Spider-Man, Harry called Roar worriedly and wanted to rush to the rescue, but was stopped by Dr. Octopus and Vulture. At this time Harry Osborn gritted his teeth. Nanako, turn on the super transformation mode. At the same time, Peter, who was buried in the ruins, also made up his mind. A burst of cheerful music sounded, and the sound of the 2 people's belts made them want to hang themselves. I really want to up right arrow wear down right arrow female, dress. I really want to wear up right arrow wear down right arrow female, outfit. I want to wear, female, outfit. The recordings of Peter and Harry sang cute and lovely tunes to the melody, and the battle suits of the 2 also burst out with colorful light. In the colorful lights, Peter and Harry's bodies also had some abnormal changes. What is this? The light dissipated, and Harry Osborn looked at each other with the twin ponytail girl who emerged from the ruins, and then uttered a lovely cry in unison. What emerged from the ruins was a petite red-haired girl. She was wearing a slightly exposed tights. On the arms, legs, chest and waist, there are some armors that are more decorative than practical. One end is long. The long red hair was tied up by 2 mechanical headgear, and the red double ponytails fluttered in the wind. The girl with 2 ponytails at the moment was staring at Harry Osborn with an expression of shocking my mother. But Harry understood the girl's mood very well, because he felt that his expression should not be much better. Especially after he saw the 2 flowing blue ponytails around his head and the exaggerated bulge on his chest from the corner of his eye. Fantasy armor tailgear. One of the unscientific scientific products in Kraft's dream. The effect is that both men and women will become a cute girl with double ponytails after wearing armor. To be honest, Kraft just gave it a try at that time. I didn't expect that he could really make it out, and because of the different materials used, the fantasy armor he made had no such thing as a qualified person. So after he successfully made a fantasy armor, he immediately thought of his good brother Peter Parker. The 2 patterns on the coin are not crowns and candy, but represent skirts and double ponytails. As for Peter and Harry's misunderstanding, isn't this something definitely? Kraft, he did it on purpose. Definitely, since Peter and Harry have paid such a big price, the strength in exchange is naturally very impressive. The original power of utopian armor is actually not that great, but what Kraft wants is its function of becoming a girl. As for the combat aspect, it can be completely entrusted to other black technologies. The super transformation mode has been activated. The voice of Battlesuit reached Peter and Harry's ears, allowing they to recover from the state of shocking my mother. The exclusive armed space has been opened. The energy shield module has been loaded, and the Lambda driver system is ready. Tear the enemy in front of you to pieces, girl. It's not a girl. Peter and Harry, who had become beautiful girls with double ponytails, yelled in shame and angrily, then their gazes at Dr. Octopus and others became menacing. All these bastards. Otherwise, how could they fall into this field? You all die for me. The lovely voice uttered cruel words, and Harry Osborn pulled out a long blue mechanical halberd from the armed space, rounded it, and slammed it towards the nearest vulture. By the way, the girl Harry Osborn became as different from Peter Parker. Not only is she tall, she also has a pair of chest muscles that meet the standards of Europeans and Americans. Just as Harry and Peter were in shock because of their transformation, Vulture and others were also shocked by the sudden change. When Vulture came back to his senses, Harry's blue halberd had arrived in front of him, and he had no time to escape, so he was smashed into the ground. On the other side, Peter Parker also drew a red long sword and slashed it at Dr. Octopus. The long sword made of superalloy Z and the psychic power bonus added by the Lambda driver soon chopped the Dr. Octopus's mechanical tentacles into a pile of fragments. However, Peter Parker at the moment did not have any joy of victory at all. He even had the dangerous idea of hacking these four guys to death on the spot. Fortunately, he was originally educated by Aunt May and Uncle Ben to be kind enough. Just at the last time of the sword, a sword slashed on the side of Dr. Octopus's head, scaring him into a cold sweat. Cobweb was ejected from his hand armor to tie up Dr. Otto, who had lost his mechanical tentacles. Peter Parker turned his gaze to Horror with his sword. Just when he was cutting Dr. Octopus, Horror was constantly releasing shockwave on him. It was just blocked by the energy shield loaded on the fantasy armor. Are you really a Spider-Man? Horror saw Peter spray Cobweb from his hand armor, raising his voice in surprise. Although I had already doubted it before, the impression that the little red-haired girl and Spider-Man in front of me usually give people is too far away. You are a girl. After thinking about it, I felt something was wrong. I looked at the blue-haired hot girl who was smashing Vulture and the electric man with the spear not far away. The real body of the shining locust should be Harry Osborn, so who is that girl? When Horror was in chaos because of the shining locust, the dark-faced Peter Parker plunged his long sword into the ground, and then rushed in front of him with a small fist, and slammed into Horror, on his chest. Horror only felt a sweet throat, and a mouthful of old blood spurted out of his mouth. In order to prevent the impact device of both hands from causing damage to his body, the most excellent thing about the thrilling battlesuit is its impact resistance. He never expected that he would be punched out by a little girl who is less than 1.6 meters. Internal injury. After Peter hit the Horror with a punch, his legs touched the ground, and then he leapt forward. A pair of small fists fell like raindrops, constantly hitting the Horror. The Horror only felt waves of pain in the chest and abdomen area and his own head. In the end, because the body's tolerance for pain reached its limit, his eyes went black and fainted. After quickly solving Dr. Octopus in the Horror, Peter turned and looked at Harry. It just so happened that Harry got rid of Vulture and Dancing Man. At the moment, both of them were already lying miserably on the ground. Their limbs were obviously unnaturally twisted, and the ground under him was even more pitted. The tall Harry Osborn looked back at Peter Parker with the blue mechanical spurge, and the two looked at each other for a long time and were speechless. Peter, Harry, looks pretty like this. Bah bah bah. After looking at each other for a while, the two people who suddenly jumped out of this thought shuddered together, and then both expressions of disgust appeared on their faces. That. The redhead lowly Peter Parker wanted to say something to break the embarrassing atmosphere, but after a long sigh, he finally turned into a long sigh. Oh. In short, hand them to the police first. The blue-haired Oni-san Harry Osborn nodded silently, then reached out to touch his abdomen, trying to disarm the armor. Where is my belt? Harry Osborn could only feel his flat belly and the tight-fitting tights, but the exaggerated transformation belt that he usually wears around his waist has disappeared. No way. Peter Parker's cold sweat came down in an instant. He hurriedly lowered his head. The flat figure allows him to easily see his waist, and it is also empty. I think something is wrong. When Peter saw Harry before, he felt a bit of disharmony, but because the transformation was too shocking to him, it caused him to ignore the slightest sense of disharmony. Now I think about it. It turned out that the belt was missing. Kazuna how can I cancel the super transformation mode? Peter hurriedly asked his battlesuit Continuous changes in your physiological structure in a short period of time will have some irreversible effects on you. According to the producer's suggestion, it is best to wait 3 days before recovering. Are you sure you want to relieve it now? That. What is the irreversible effect? Peter swallowed and continued to ask cautiously. It's probably going to be a little sissy, not a big problem. That's what the producer said in the information given to me. Kraft, my grandfather Uni. The little red-haired lowly looked up to the sky and screamed. Ahi. Kraft, who was playing with his two younger sisters and the dog in the virtual game, suddenly sneezed. He rubbed his nose and shouted at Aurelie, who was carrying a huge ancient dragon not far away. "Aurelie, stop playing, go to bed." "Yes." Aurelie responded and threw the ancient dragon dozens of times her size from a distance, crashing a mountain in the distance. And that dragon could still crawl out of the ruins of the mountain peak, fluttering with some bent wings and fleeing. Looking at its health bar, it only dropped by about 1/3. Surprised. This is unreasonable. Although it was not the first time to see Aurelie's destructive power, Quinn would still be frightened every time. In fact, Kraft hasn't been able to get used to it yet, and there should be very few people who can be calm about a bear kid who changes the terrain at will. Not to mention that this is obviously a virtual world. So it's ridiculous to say that Aurelie's conceptual attack is still effective in the virtual world. Once again, lamented Plath, who was in the illogical world. Kraft and others quit the game and returned to reality. "Hurry up and wash your face, brush your teeth and go to sleep." Kraft rubbed Alail's little head and said, then looked at Angela. Angela raised her head and looked at Kraft for a while, and she suddenly seemed to be out of power. Her head and hands dropped quickly, and the virtual image that followed her came out of this body like a ghost. "I'm brushing my teeth," Angela Phantom, who came out, said to Kraft with a tooth cup in her hand and a toothbrush in her mouth, spitting out foam. Kraft rolled his eyes, ignored the dead girl, turned around and walked to the bathroom. Unlike Alice and Aurelie, which are unscientific robots that can eat, Angela's mechanical body does not have a function of eating, so it doesn't really matter whether she washes or not. It's just a daily amusement between brothers and sisters. After washing, Aurelie, the energetic guy, fell asleep as soon as his head touched the pillow. Speaking of which, Alice is also a good boy who sleeps as soon as it is time to go to bed. Kraft nodded in satisfaction. His sleep quality has always been good. "Worthy of being my sister, like me." Turning off the light in the room for Aurelie, Kraft walked to his room, preparing to start the routine prayer before going to bed. Because day and night dreams have occurred many times, after making Aurelie, Kraft has been trying to control the content bias of dreams. It's just that his dreams no longer appeared after Aurelie, so he didn't know whether this kind of prayer had any effect, so he just tried it casually. And the technology he wants most at the moment, definitely is ultra-long-distance teleportation, so Kraft stood in front of the bed and said silently, "Give me a technology for ultra-long-distance teleportation," 10 times before he lifted the quilt and got in. Am I successful? The next morning, Kraft, who was already awake, sat up from the bed, scratched his messy hair, and muttered to himself with some uncertainty. After such a long gap, he finally opened a new dream, and his previous prayer didn't seem to be in vain. The content of the dream was indeed a transmission technology. The transmission technology in the dream is different from what Kraft wanted. Although in theory, this technology does support ultra-long-distance transmission. What Kraft dreamed about was a handheld portal device developed by Aperture Technology, which looked a bit like a beetle, and a bit like the claws of a claw machine. This portal gun can shoot a blue and one yellow rays. After hitting any inorganic solid, it will form an oval portal of the same color, and the two portals are completely in between. Intercommunication, and ignores any distance. So in theory, as long as Kraft opens a portal on the Earth, and then opens a portal on the Cross or a future base, then he can travel between the two places at will. The only problem is that there can only be one door of both colors. As long as a new portal is created, the previously opened portal will disappear. In other words, even if Kraft made this portal gun, what he got was just a fixed-point two-way portal, and his flexibility was still a bit worse. But it's better than nothing. Kraft fiddled with the portal gun and asked Angela to put it in the memo. After his space base was built, he would find time to return to the Earth to open the door. And now, what Kraft has to do is to install the Cross Pioneer with the GN solar furnace on the battleship made during this time. Since Kraft prepared several sets of power systems for the Cross Pioneer from the beginning, and considering that more power systems may be added in the future, he has already reserved several places for future power systems. Therefore, the Cross Pioneer does not need to find the planet to dock and then modify it so troublesome. Directly install the prepared GN solar furnace into the reserved position, and then adjust it slightly. In addition to the GN solar furnace, the Dark Elf's power system Kraft has also been reorganized. In other words, it is the technology that has been mastered by the fleet that once ravaged the 9 realms. Slightly pulling the hips, but still barely qualified as a backup power source. After installing the GN solar furnace, with the original beam sail, the speed of the Cross Pioneer has been increased by a large amount, and Kraft also used the fold technology for long-distance transmission from time to time, and they soon flew out of the solar system. Originally, Kraft intended to find a small planet in the Kuiper belt to transform it based on the information provided by the riots, but after learning from Ancient One that Asgard had the ability to monitor the 9 realms, he dispelled this idea. Although he didn't plan to trouble Asgard now, Kraft still treated them as imaginary enemies, even if he didn't target Asgard, but Loki didn't plan to let it go. After flying out of the solar system, Kraft asked the riots again where there is a small planet suitable for transformation. But it is a pity that the symbiotes are focusing on planets that have life and can be parasitic. The small inanimate planets mainly composed of ore structures that Kraft wants are not within their scope of attention. So Kraft can only fly all the way and slowly search for it, or ask them after encountering cosmic beings who can communicate. When Kraft sent a drone to conduct geological exploration on the nearby planet, O'Reilly suddenly broke through the wall, rushed into the main control room, and then dragged him and ran outside. In the face of O'Reilly's strange power, Kraft had no ability to resist. He could only lift his feet off the ground, and was dragged by O'Reilly behind her like a kite. "Can you tell me what happened first?" Kraft, who flew sideways, asked calmly. The answer to him was Angela's phantom, who was also floating on the side. "Mr. Quinn is a little uncomfortable." Angela hesitation, then added, "If you read it right, he might be in heat." When O'Reilly was dragged to Quinn's front, the dog looked very manic at this time, holding his head high and making a wolf howling sound. Kraft sniffed, and he could still smell a little urine. At this moment, Haro was driving a humanoid mobile suit to clean Quinn's soiled ground. Without a word, the dog rushed up and hugged him. The robot's thighs began to move his ass. Kraft was not in a hurry to stop Quinn, but first took out the treatment needle to himself, and healed the bruised arm that had just been knocked out and was pulled and dislocated by O'Reilly. Glancing at O'Reilly, who was really smirking at him with his tongue sticking out next to him, Kraft considered for a moment, but decided to give up preaching. With O'Reilly's temperament, he must have turned his head and forgot again. This little thing is not worthy of correcting her. His bad habits consume a lot of Kraft's time and energy. Walking to Quinn's side, grabbing him by the back of the neck and pulling him off the robot's thigh, Kraft asked Angela while controlling the dog's body. "How is this situation usually solved? Under normal circumstances, you can find a bitch to bed with Mr. Quinn, but we don't have a bitch now." Angela hesitated for a moment, glanced at the dog who was still stalking the dog, and then said, "Or just sterilize Mr. Quinn." Surprised. Quinn, who was jumping on the floor like a fish out of the water, stopped making noise. He turned his stiff neck and stared at Angela with disbelief. "Sterilization is okay? Is this reasonable?" This. Kraft scratched his head and looked at Quinn with some annoyance. "It's not so good. Yes, brother, you can't do this to me." Just when Quinn was a little relieved, Kraft added the last sentence. "After all, I haven't learned how to sterilize a dog." "Big brother, you two are 5 boys." Quinn, who was betrayed by a good big brother, began to struggle again. "Help. Kill the dog." Who is going to grab the dog? "Stop howling." Kraft knocked on Quinn's head. "I just teased you just now. I have already figured out a way." "Real?" Quinn looked at Kraft with surprise. "It's definitely true. The big deal is to make you a female bionic dog." Kraft tied Quinn to the corner of the spacecraft to prevent him from peeing everywhere, then sat cross-legged across from him and gave his own plan. "Or I will strengthen you." In Kraft's dream, there have been many technologies that use animal genes to strengthen humans, or vice versa, to anthropomorphize animals. It is similar to Peter Parker's experience, except that he has never liked human experiments, so these technologies are also used. Has been throwing ashes in the corner of his head. In this situation, turning Quinn into a kobold is actually a choice. The transformed dog will not lose that aspect of its function, but it will not affect normal activities as it does now. It is definitely up to Quinn to decide how to choose in the end. If he doesn't want to make changes, the big deal is like Kraft said before, make him a bionic little bitch. Kraft told Quinn about several options for becoming a kobold, and also clarified the pros and cons. Quinn tilted his head for a long time, and then said to Kraft, "I want to choose the least painful plan." It is in line with Quinn's character. "That's okay, but Quinn, are you sure? After the transformation, you look different from other dogs." Kraft felt that he still had to remind him. After all, with the IQ of this stupid dog, it was very likely that he hadn't considered this issue. Surprised. Quinn really hadn't thought about this issue. He looked at Kraft with a blank expression, and then took a pee on the spot. Looking down at his latest work, Quinn stuck out his tongue and quibbled. "It's not me, it's its own hands." Probably Quinn didn't like this situation where he couldn't control his excretory organs. In the end, he decided to let Kraft reform himself, but he also asked for it. "Brother, please keep my beautiful hairy body. Do not worry." Kraft gestured an okay gesture to the dog. There are many ways to transform animals in the dream. There are also many designs that try to keep the original beast appearance, plus the dog originally doesn't need any special strengthening, so there are even more options. What Kraft finally chose was the technology used by a villain organization scientist called the RX Group. The aspect of strengthening is very simple, it is to give ordinary animals human knowledge and physical abilities, except that it is no different from the original. And this technique also met Quinn's first condition, which was a completely painless transformation. It's just that Kraft is a little bit confused about the significance of this technology being developed. The retrofit device is not difficult to manufacture, and Kraft took advantage of the time the drone was exploring around. Put Quinn into the steel pot that will become a cylinder after it is finished. Kraft added the necessary upgrade materials, and then waited as if waiting for the microwave to heat up the rice. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, the cylinder opened to the sides, and after the white smoke gushing from the inside gradually dissipated, it revealed Quinn, who was lying quietly sleeping there. Don't go to sleep. Kraft stepped forward to wake up the dog. Let's see how you are now. Quinn stood up from the people on the ground, swishly, then walked around like a human, and also came to a set of broadcast gymnastics. Wow. Quinn is amazing. It has become the same as in the cartoon. Aurelie excitedly cheered Roar on the side. After moving around for a while, the dog suddenly frowned and stared at Kraft. Big brother, you lied to me. Huh? Kraft was confused. What did I lie to you? You promised me the snack 3 days ago, and you lied to me a chicken leg 5 days ago, and the reward you said a week ago was lost. Quinn broke his paw and counted Kraft's evil deeds. Well, I'll make up for it later. Kraft touched his forehead dumbfoundedly. Even if this stupid dog has improved his intelligence, his focus is still on eating. The important thing now is that you won't pee anywhere anymore, right? Don't worry, brother, I don't have that mundane desire. No. I won't file size anywhere anymore. Quinn held his dog's head with both hands, posing as in the painting. Scream, big brother. What kind of messy knowledge do you put in my mind again? There is no such thing. Kraft looked away guiltily. Peter Jason Quill, nicknamed Star-Lord, is driving his beloved Milano to land on a planet called Mogra. This planet has been abandoned for many years. Except for some wild animals with strong vitality, no intelligent creatures live on it. As a member of the Predators, Peter Quill came to this uninhabited planet because his Predator team received a commission to find a thing called the Universe Spirit Ball on the remains of this planet. Peter Quill doesn't know the use of this so-called cosmic spiritual ball. He only knows that this thing is worth 150,000 credits, and he wants to get this thing before the arrival of other Predators, and then take it alone. Go to the broker to make a deal. Jumping off the spaceship, putting on the headphones, and turning on the ancient Walkman, Peter Quill danced to the ruins where the cosmic spiritual orb was stored for self-entertainment with music. At this moment, he is the most beautiful cub on the planet. Easily fixed the gate and protective equipment of the ruins, Xing-Ju threw the cosmic spirit ball in his hand and was about to leave, and a few hideous guys walked in the ruins. In the face of these obviously malicious intruders and their muzzles pointed at him, Xing-Ju raised his hands very obediently, and handed out the cosmic spiritual ball that hadn't been warmed before. But this group of invaders didn't intend to let him go. They took away his 150,000 yuan, not counting, and planned to take him to see the accuser Ronin. The name Xing-Ju is no stranger to Ronin. As a member of the famous Predators in the universe, they have been paying attention to some nasty guys in the universe, and the accuser Ronin is among the nasty guys, is also the most troublesome one. This is a war lunatic who is strong in his own right and his subordinates are strong. Even though the Kree and the Shandar had already signed a peace treaty, Ronin, a high-level Kree, still led his men to continuously attack the Shandar, killing all men, women and children. Although Xing-Ju is not a Shandar, he is not interested in putting his life in the hands of a lunatic Ronin, not to mention that his 150,000 credit points are still in the hands of Luo Nan. So while he was talking about the leading mechanical head, he secretly took out the electric shock grenade from his pocket and threw it at the feet of the two mechanical heads holding him. Pulling out the element gun at his waist knocked down the leading mechanical head, Xing-Ju picked up the universe spirit ball that fell on the ground. However, before he was happy for a while, Ronin's men who had been shot before got up from the ground unscathed, and then pulled the trigger at him. An iron bridge escaped the violent rays. Xing-Ju grabbed the cosmic spiritual ball and fled to the hole that was just smashed behind him, while Ronin's men followed closely and were near his spaceship. There are also several mechanical heads of the same shape guarding there. Damn. Xing-Ju threw a magnetic trap and temporarily trapped Ronin's men who were guarding the spacecraft. Then, before the chasers behind him chased him, he crawled into his Milano. Just as he was sitting in the piloting position and was about to start the spacecraft, a few beams suddenly fell in the sky. piercing the wings of his spacecraft, and at the same time destroyed the spacecraft that was docked next to Luo Nanbu. Gift crab. Xingju punched the operation panel in front of him angrily, then looked up to the sky. He wanted to see who actually dared to provoke Ronin and the Predator at the same time. On the other side, Luo Nanbu, who broke free from the magnetic trap and chased it, also raised their heads. I saw a figure of huge amounts of slowly falling from the air. This is a huge robot with a height of more than 10 meters. The overall color scheme is mainly red, white and black. The position of the forehead and chest of the robot has a clear symbol of pirate skulls, and the wings extending from the shoulders are like cloaks. Generally covering most of the robot's body, the 4 propellers on the back are opened in an X shape, and a kind of fluorescent green particles are spraying outwards. Cosmic Pirate. Death Pioneer. Peter Quill swallowed his saliva and murmured in a low voice. Just like Ronin the Accuser, the Cosmic Pirate is also one of the not easy guys that predators pay attention to, and unlike Ronin, who has been famous for a long time, this Cosmic Pirate named Death Pioneer is a mysterious force that has suddenly emerged recently. But the short time of fame does not mean that their strength is so-so. On the contrary, this self-proclaimed Death Vanguard force has been very strong from the beginning. When they first appeared, they looted a resource ship that was transported to the Xia Empire. After evacuating the resources on the ship, they did not leave, but instead docked the spacecraft to a nearby planet with care. A group of bounty hunters who wanted to please the Xia Empire decisively launched an attack on them, but the other side only sent a walking canine to beat the group of bounty hunters to hold their heads, and finally beat themselves one by one. All of his spaceship was mortgaged to Death Pioneer before being let go. Later, the Xia Empire also sent troops to encircle the Death Vanguard's mothership, but the result was that the Xia Empire was defeated and was chased and chopped by a group of robots that also spewed glowing green particles wielding a lightsaber. The Xia Empire definitely couldn't easily let go of the Cosmic Pirates of Death Pioneer. It launched several encirclement and suppression campaigns, and also invited some famous bounty hunters in the universe as foreign aid. The result is definitely obvious. If they succeeded, Peter Quill would not see the iconic giant robot of Death Vanguard here. We are the subordinates of the accuser Ronin, the Vanguard of Death. If you don't want to offend Ronin, it's best not to interfere in our affairs. The leader, who was unscathed after taking a shot from Xingju, shouted at the landed pirate Gundam. Unlike the name Xingju, the name Death Vanguard has recently become famous in the interstellar society. In order not to affect Ronin's mission, his men decided to give priority to peace talks. It's just that even in peace talks, Ronin's subordinates put themselves in a higher position. Because the accuser Ronin's name is more deterrent than the Death Vanguard who just broke into the famous hall, and his subordinates don't think these cosmic pirates dare to be enemies of their masters. Pirate Gundam's head turned to Luo Nanbu, who was clamoring towards him, and then a huge amounts of light blades stabbed out from under its steel cloak, directly turning those unknown guys into ashes. Hey! Wait! I'm not in the same group with them. Seeing the giant robot turned his gaze to him, Xingju quickly jumped out of the Milano cockpit, waving his hands and shouting. I also come from the Earth. You are also Earthlings, right? We are our own. Peter Quill can swear to his Walkman, although there are other forces in the interstellar that are named as pirates, he has never seen the pirate culture with the skull symbol outside the Earth, so he can almost 100% 100 certainty. These cosmic pirates called Death Vanguard must have come from the Earth. It is said that the leader of this group of cosmic pirates is a woman named Red Queen. Maybe she can still have a deep soul love with her. Mr. Xingju, who held his hands high, was nervous, and still had time to make pink delusions. After finding a suitable little planet, Kraft first determined the transformation drawings, and then threw a group of Haro and construction machinery on that planet, and he took Alale and Quinn on the Cross Pioneer to continue on the planet, wandering in space. Since the portal gun was used to establish a channel between the Cross and Little Planet, Angela can connect to the computer placed on the Little Planet at any time to let Kraft know the progress of the project. If there is any special situation, Kraft can also return to the Little Planet through the portal to deal with it at any time. After continuing to drift for a while, Kraft and the others encountered the spacecraft piloted by other cosmic beings. To be precise, it should be 4 ships. Although these 4 ships are not as large as the Cross, the main ship has almost 2/3 the file size of the Cross, and the other 3 frigates are only 2 or 3 times smaller than the main ship. In addition, the appearance of these spaceships looks a bit crude, and it doesn't look like a regular army, it should be some private fleet or the like. Because he wanted to learn more about the interstellar society, Kraft did not let Angela, the sister who likes pirate games, directly attack, but sent a friendly exchange message to the other party. Unfortunately, the other party's reaction was not so friendly. Ignoring Kraft's favor, directly attacked the Cross. Then they were defeated by Angela's control of the cross and the UAV formations of unidentified military forces. In addition, O'Reilly also participated in this space war, but the spacecraft she controlled was shot down within 2 minutes after the attack ends. So O'Reilly simply used the flight device that Kraft installed in her body to directly rampage in space, destroying countless enemy and own fighters, and had a good time. After capturing these guys, Kraft learned that they are actually a group of interstellar human traffickers. This kind of profession is not new in interstellar society, especially the huge amounts of differences in appearance between races, and they basically don't treat each other as human beings. As interstellar traffickers, these people belong to the lowest level. The reason why they go to the countryside, place near the solar system, is because there are not many high-tech planets here, and they can easily capture some indigenous life. Go to the interstellar society to sell. But no matter how bad they are, the most conventional shuttle technology in the interstellar society, as well as translation software, star maps, and other necessary knowledge to break into the universe are still there. In addition, Kraft squeezed a small amount of interstellar currency from them, our credit points. For the human traffickers, Kraft had nothing to say. After squeezing their value out, he directly threw them out of the spacecraft as space junk. Originally, after installing the shuttle device, Kraft was thinking about opening a portal back to Earth. However, after browsing the star chart, he found that there was no jumping point in the solar system. The nearest jumping point was some distance away from where they are now, and if you want to return to the Earth, you can only fly back slowly. However, after Kraft checked the star chart carefully, he found that all the jumping points were basically set up near some neutral planets, and there were almost no jumping points near the important planets of those interstellar countries. It should be those interstellar countries that prevent the enemy from directly jumping face to attack their own territory, specifically closing the jumping point or only opening it to some people. The situation in the solar system is also similar. Without Asgard's permission, there is no way for a foreign spacecraft to jump directly into the solar system. Because it is not possible to return to Earth quickly, and his own space base has not been built yet, Kraft did not rush to turn around and go back. Instead, he chose the nearest jumping point and experienced different types of space shuttles, what it feels like. Then they met the resource ship of the Shia Empire. Originally, Kraft didn't intend to snatch them, even if the captain's attitude was a bit high. Kraft, who had just arrived, didn't intend to cause trouble. As a result, the idiot wanted to force the purchase of the Cross Pioneer as a gift to the Shia Empire, and then the little girl Angela exploded. Angela, who was obsessed with pirate games, was very precious to the Cross, and Kraft had no plans to hand over the Cross, so they went to war. It's just that after defeating those guys who didn't know so-called, Kraft saved their lives. After all, he felt that these guys were not guilty of their crimes, and what they proposed was a purchase at the beginning, but Kraft was not allowed to refuse. So Kraft didn't rush to kill, but took away the resources in the spacecraft and the credits from them. As a result, those bounty hunters in the army of the Shia Empire came forward to find their troubles. When defeating the first batch of Shia's army, Kraft thought that the power of these interstellar empires was nothing more than this, but when the Shia Empire really put their minds on them, Kraft found that he underestimated these interstellar forces. Although Kraft's dream technology is not weak, it does not have many advantages compared to these interstellar forces that have been developed for many years. If it weren't for Kraft's good habit of forming armor, he would almost not be encircled and suppressed in the next few times. Can survive. Definitely, this is when Kraft didn't use O'Reilly. However, Kraft also found out that these people don't seem to like to install energy shields on their spacecraft, so they had the opportunity to drive out the shield when they were besieged for the last time. A way of life. The subsequent development is not new. The Shia Empire found it meaningless to continue to fight with Kraft and the others, and negotiated with them. The Shia Empire withdrew the wanted order for the Vanguard of Death, and Kraft did not. Then go to the trouble of the Shia Empire forces. Even after the peace talks, the Shia Empire gave Death Vanguard some commissions to help deal with hostile forces, suppress rebellions, and capture some rare cosmic creatures. As for why Kraft and the others appeared on the abandoned planet of Morag, it was simply because the Infinite Gems radar caught the existence of infinite gems while passing by. To be honest, if it weren't for Angela's reminder, Kraft would have forgotten such a thing. After TIE particles inexplicably become a red stone, its ability has not changed fundamentally. In addition to still being able to produce some inanimate materials, a new function was added. It is considered a huge amount of illusion to create a range, but it is only an illusion. It has no ability to transform the illusion into reality. So what is it called? Reality gem. This is definitely something that can be done in the pursuit of stability. If you use reality gem to forcefully generate the material in the dream, Kraft can vaguely feel that it can be successful, but it will cause some unknowable things around you. Influence. Before finding the correct way to use reality gem, Kraft simply threw it into the warehouse. It was only until today that he discovered the new infinite gems that he remembered it again. I have to say again, Thanos' action efficiency is really not good. Kraft has encountered 5 infinite gems, none of which is in the hands of Thanos. Out of curiosity and blocking Thanos, Kraft drove the pirate Gundam and landed on the Morag star. He didn't expect to encounter an Earth fellow. Wow. I didn't expect me to be on the flagship of the legendary Death Pioneer. After Peter Quill entered the Cross Pioneer, he looked around the environment like a bun, and behind him was followed by a pink-skinned alien girl. Peter, don't these cosmic pirates really do anything to us? This pink-skinned girl named Barrett was also unlucky. When she ran into the star scumbag, Xingju, she not only forgot that she was still on the spaceship, but even her name was not remembered. If Barrett had no other way to leave here now, she would not have followed Peter Quill to the flagship of the Universe Pirate. Don't worry, they are all from the same planet as me, they will give me some face. Xingju is not very good at anything else, but he is very good at supporting things. Even if he can't figure out the attitude of these cosmic pirates, he still puts on the appearance that he can eat well. When the two were talking in low voices, a string of cheerful, ha 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 ha, was quickly approaching here from a distance, and soon a 7 or 8-year-old girl with glasses appeared in front of them. How are you? Rayleigh raised his palms, smiled and called roar to Xingju and Barrett. You, hello. To be honest, Xingju had thought of various ways to meet the cosmic pirates, but he had never expected a little girl to appear. Is it the child of a certain crew member? No, at least the child of the chief mate or the captain. Seeing Rayleigh running wildly in the ship without scruples, Peter Quill guessed that she should be the child of a big shot in Death Vanguard. He used his limited knowledge of pirates to speculate about Rayleigh's identity. Hello young lady. Xingju took out the little doll prepared for Yongdu from his pocket and handed it to Rayleigh. My name is Peter Quill, you can also call me Xingju. Wow. I received a gift. Rayleigh took the doll and looked at it, and Roar happily said, I'm going to show it to Quinn. After speaking, he stopped paying attention to the star in front of him, and disappeared in front of the two of them. The little girl is very energetic, ha ha ha. The disregarded Xingju touched the back of his head in embarrassment, and smiled dryly at Barrett. Your name is Peter too. At this moment, Kraft, who got up and down from the pirate Gundam, also came to the cabin where Star-Lord and Barrett were. That's right, the name Peter is quite common. Quote hello who are you? Although Kraft was about the same height as an adult at this time, he could still be seen from his face that he was still very young. Kraft Lee, the driver of the big robot just now, and the deputy captain of the Cross Pioneer. Kraft stepped forward and extended his right hand to Peter Quill. Since he is an Earth fellow and his name is Peter, Kraft is also rare to show a friendly attitude towards a white man he just met. Deputy Captain? Xingju shook hands with Kraft in a daze. Yes, Deputy Captain, because my sister wants to be a captain whatever she says, so I can only be a deputy captain. Kraft sighed helplessly, and while explaining, he walked inside with Xingju and the pink-skinned alien girl. Sister. You said, is it the Red Queen? Xingju and the pink-skinned girl continued to be stunned. This legendary cosmic pirate, who would never let go by staring at the target, seemed to be different from what they had imagined. Moreover, depending on Kraft's age, his sister must have not been an adult. She also wanted to touch her nose with Peter Quill, who had a romantic encounter with Hong later, and felt that the development of things began to become weird. Yes, Kraft answered Xingju's question weakly, and led the two into the main cabin of the Cross Pioneer. As the hatch opened, Peter Quill and Barrett, who had not yet digested Kraft's words, were once again shocked and stunned. The main cabin of the Cross Pioneer has a large space. It is the largest cabin in the integrated farm space except for the lower space. Kraft did not have any specific plans for it at the beginning. It was used as a living room and a public space. But now, this place has been built into a children's playground, and Rayleigh, Quinn, and Angela mechanical body wearing eye masks and captain's hat are playing in it. Ha 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 ha. The three little guys at the moment are driving their bumper cars into the main cabin rampage, and the whole space is filled with Rayleigh's hearty laughter. Are you Peter Quill? Angela drove her skull-painted pirate bumper car to the front of Xingju, raised her head, sternly said the lines she had designed for herself with her cute little face. For the sake of you are also a human being on Earth, hand over half of your treasure, and we will let your life go. I swear by the pirate flag of Death Pirate after the pirate of the universe, I absolutely do what I say. This little lady is the Red Queen. Peter Quill pointed to Angela and looked at Kraft with an incredible expression. Definitely, we don't have to lie to you, right? Kraft shrugged. Do you have any opinion on this, Captain? Angela jumped out of the bumper car and hit Xingju's calf with a kick. Wow. The famous, professed, Xing instantly hugged his calf and knelt down in front of Angela. Although it's a little girl's appearance, don't forget that Angela's mechanical body is also designed by naruto&onepiece. Xingju's calf was not directly kicked off. Angela had already received 90%, the result of the force of 9.9. After putting Star-Lord down with one kick, Angela jumped back into her pirate bumper car and continued to play with Aurelie and the others. Well, sorry. My sisters are a little bit naughty. Kraft scratched his cheek and apologized somewhat embarrassedly to the Star-Lord who was kneeling on the ground. No, it's nothing. Xingju gritted his teeth and stood up from the ground pretending to be no big deal. It's just a little girl, how much strength can I have? I just acted with her just now, ha ha ha. Even if his facial muscles were distorted because of the pain, Xingju still assumed a nonchalant posture. Yes. Kraft glanced at Xingju's slightly trembling left leg, did not choose to expose him, but took the initiative to change the subject. Although it's a bit presumptuous, I have something to discuss with you. Can you sell me the things I just got in the ruins? Kraft didn't know if the Earth fellow in front of him knew about infinite gems, but he decided to try to negotiate with him by peaceful means first. You said the universe spirit ball. It's no problem to sell it to you, but... Peter Quill took out a baseball file-size metal ball from his bag with extremely complicated patterns carved on it. He tossed the cosmic spiritual ball in his hand and quoted the price to Kraft. This gadget can be sold for 150,000 at the broker in Sandal, and I won't charge you more. Similar to Kraft's idea, Peter Quill doesn't plan to pit his fellow Earth fellow, but at least he can't lose money. 150,000. No problem, I'll transfer it to you later. Kraft twitched his mouth and agreed. Is this too cheap? Infinite gems can actually start with such a small amount of money. What has Thanos been doing for so many years? The start of the cosmic spirit orb was unexpectedly smooth. Peter Quill didn't even know what was inside, but he asked Kraft curiously after paying for it and delivering it. Is there anything special about this thing? In addition to the broker, the accuser Ronan is also looking for it. Kraft glanced at Peter Quill. Whether he was reminding him or not, Kraft didn't intend to tell him the truth. It's not that Peter Quill will go back, but knowing too much is not good for this fellow Earth fellow. I am also commissioned by others, and the price they offer is much higher than that broker. Kraft looked at Peter Quill with a smile and a smile. Although it is hard to say the specific number, it is definitely more than 150,000. A few more zeros. What? Peter Quill was very angry. Definitely his anger was not aimed at Kraft, but the broker who offered them. That profiteer. How dare to deceive the predators? It doesn't have to be deceiving you. Maybe he thinks that the cosmic spirit ball is only worth this price. Kraft shrugged and defended the guy he didn't know. It seems that not many people know infinite gems. Okay. Actually seems to be quite a lot. Recalling the insiders I knew, there were many people on Earth alone. No longer struggling with this question, Kraft turned the topic to Peter Quill. How did you leave the Earth? How did you join the predators? You know that most predators don't have a good reputation. Although I am not a pirate to say that. Oh, this is a very long story. Xingju and Kraft went to the bench in the corner and sat down and began to talk about his experience. It's not right. Kraft scratched his head. He had also dealt with some predators before. Because of the composition of Death Vanguard, Kraft knew of a default rule within the predators. There is a principle of predators not to take action against children. According to your statement, isn't that bravery violated the predators' regulations? I didn't know there was such a thing. Peter Quill froze for a moment, then lowered his head and started muttering to himself. No wonder I never saw Yongdu and other predators coming. If you are really puzzled, I have the contact information of a predator leader named Starkar Vaughn. Would you like to ask him? Whether it's because of the Earth Fellows, or because of a big leak he just picked up from Xingju, Kraft intends to help him. Anyway, it's just a matter of hand. Sorry to bother you. Xingju put away his cynical expression for the first time and looked at Kraft very seriously. Kraft tapped twice on the watch, and a virtual screen popped up above his wrist. After a while, Starka Vaughn's head appeared on it. Kraft? Is there anything you want me to do? Starka Vaughn on the screen asked with a smile. Kraft and he met during a commission. They established a decent friendship in that battle, and Starka Vaughn, also one of the few predators, has a relatively good reputation. That's it. I don't know if you know a predator named Yongdu. Kraft was straight to the point, and then he saw Starkar Vaughn's expression on the screen quickly became difficult to look at. Yongdu. I definitely know that it is a shame among our predators, Starka said emotionally. He was exiled by us because he violated our predators' principle of never buying and selling children. Why are you suddenly mention him? Well, Because I happened to meet an Earth fellow today, and he seems to be one of the people who was looted by Yongdu. Kraft pointed to the Star-Lord beside him. I know you, Stark-Yvonne said before the Star-Lord spoke, Yongdu's only child who hasn't sold out. If you want to come to me to judge Yongdu, that would be unfortunate. Our punishment is to exile him, and we will not give you extra compensation. Although Stark-Yvonne's reputation is good, he is essentially a predator, and naturally he won't give a head start to an almost completely unknown Peter Quill. No, what I want to ask is, why me? Prior to this, Xingju had always thought that he was the only child robbed by Yongdu, and believed that they needed a child to steal something from a small place, but now it seems that this is not the case. There must be a reason why I ran to the earth bravely to catch a child like me, right? Once the miasma was opened, Xingju discovered many unreasonable points. I don't know about this, and Yongdu has not given us a reasonable explanation. Starka shook his head. He couldn't answer Xingju's question, but he also gave a clue. But as far as I know, Yongdu had only one buyer back then, but I don't know who it was. I'm sorry, I can only help you here, kid. Starka finished speaking, punched his chest with a fist with his right hand, and actively cut off the call. After finishing the call with Stark-Yvonne, Peter Quill sat silently on the bench and didn't know what he was thinking. What are you going to do? Go to Yongdu and ask for clarity. Kraft patted him on the shoulder. For the sake of being both an Earthling and a cosmic spiritual ball, I can help you find the truth. You are right, I really have to go to Yongdu to ask clearly. Xingju took out a U-disk file size machine, which is a relatively popular interstellar universal communication device, and the price is very affordable. Pinching the two corners of the machine to tear apart the small square in his hand, a light screen appeared in Xingju's hand. He clicked on the light screen and a blue-skinned alien appeared on the light screen. A short red mechanical fin is inlaid on the slippery head. Quill. Where are you now? The blue-skinned Mohigan's head on the screen began to growl loudly as soon as the call was connected. We have been to the planet Mogra, but neither you nor the universe spirit orb are there. If it was the past, Xingju had quarreled with Yongdu long ago, but now he said very calmly, I have met Stark-Yvonne. Yongdu on the light screen was silent. So, tell me the truth, why me? Who is the one who wants to buy me? With Yongdu's silence, Peter Quill became more and more excited, and he pointed to Yongdu on the screen and yelled. What is the reason why you violated the principle of the Predator and changed my life? In the face of Peter Quill's questioning, Yongdu remained silent for a long time, but in the end he insisted. There is no reason. It was the absence of a kid who could help us steal things that left you, that's all. What about the kids before? Why did you sell them? Xingju pressed the geological question step by step. This is a business. Quill. If I hadn't taken you in. Taking in? I was forcibly taken away by you? At that time, my crew wanted to eat you. I saved you. Quill. Really? Then I really want to thank you. The two entered the usual quarrel stage again, and Kraft, who listened to the side, yawned. Because although these two guys are arguing fiercely, Kraft somehow feels that the relationship between them is actually quite good. As for cannibalism, isn't this a very common way for adults to deceive children? Peter Quill is such a big man, he still believes this? Sure enough, the guy named Peter didn't have a good brain. It doesn't seem to be right, there is a cannibal among these aliens who seems quite normal. Kraft scratched his head, not too sure what was going on with these two men. However, at this moment, the quarrel between Xingju and Yongdu attracted Aureli's attention, and she suddenly swooped to Xingju's side and looked at Yongdu on the screen. How are you? After making a routine call to roar, Aurelie pointed at Yongdu on the screen and laughed. Ha 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 ha. Brother, look. It's Moxigan. Yongdu's appearance made Aurelie feel very interesting. She couldn't stop laughing at all. There was no intermittent, ha ha ha, that made the quarrel between Yongdu and Xingju impossible to continue. Quill, are they? You may not believe it. Xingju shrugged and introduced. They come from the Earth just like me. You should have heard of their name, the Cosmic Pirate. Pointing to Kraft, who was on the side, Star-Lord continued. In addition, Starka was also introduced to me by him. Hello, Mr. Yongdu. Kraft nodded at Yongdu. I don't know why you conceal Quill, but since he already knows the clues, he can always find out if he takes a moment to find out, isn't it? I think it's better not to waste each other's time. Yongdu pursed his mouth and looked at Xingju across the screen for a long time. Seeing him reluctant to give up, he finally sighed and looked away. Ego. Yongdu whispered in his hoarse voice. The person who entrusted me to find you was called Ego, and he claimed to be your father. My father? Yes, he entrusted me to find his descendants scattered on various planets for him at the time, but then I found out that all the children who were sent over had disappeared. In order to save your life, I did not give you to him. Sorry to interrupt. Kraft interjected with some confusion. How can you be sure that he is telling the truth? Wow. I never thought about this. Yongdu was dumbfounded, and then smacked. But if that's not the case, who would pay me a lot of money to find a group of children of completely different races? Ah. Kraft held his forehead. Should I say that you aliens are unexpectedly honest? And that group of dark elves, as well as Thor of Asgard, feel quite simple, and the god of mischief, Loki, will be smarter. No wonder he is not seen in Asgard. Well, no matter if Igo is Quill's father or not, why did he collect these children and kill them? I don't know, he promised that I won't hurt these children. Yongdu, who was obviously deceived, also resented Igo. But he is too strong. I can't afford the courage to confront him. I can only lead Quill to avoid him. Well, I probably know the situation. Kraft rubbed his eyebrows. If what you said is true, then you were actually pretty good to Quill. Besides, if you tell Star what happened if they are stuck, they should not be exiled, right? However, when faced with Kraft's question, Yongdu had a sullen face and didn't make a difference at all. What's wrong with these aliens? Yongdu looks dead like when he first entered school. He was in a state when he hid a white skin and was called a parent. Kraft rolled his eyes silently, not too lazy to give the naive alien any psychological counseling, but looked aside the Earth fellow. Those just now are just a side word of Yongdu, so I think you should decide what the situation is, whether you believe what he said, or go to the person named Yigo to ask clearly. He patted the shoulder of Star-Lord, who was in a complicated mood. Kraft suggested. No. Quill will die. You don't know how powerful Igo is. Yongdu on the screen stopped loudly. I have seen him make a shot. Igo doesn't need any weapons at all. Can destroy a fleet. Well. It sounds like Odin and Ancient One exist. Kraft touched his chin, and there really are such big bosses in other planets who have exploded individual power, but... Glancing at Rayleigh, who was still lying on the ground kicking and laughing wildly, Kraft didn't think the problem was big. What are you going to do? In the end, how to choose depends on the client. Xingju. My mother always tells everyone that my father is from the stars. She has a brain tumor, so everyone thinks she is delusional. Xingju whispered all the things his mother had told him about his father, and his eyes gradually became firmer. I want to know the truth. I understand. Yongdu sighed. I will send you the coordinates of the planet where Igo is located. Thanks, Yongdu. Xingju awkwardly thanked him, and then turned off the communicator. Thank you for your help. Xingju turned around and said to Kraft. Next, please place me on the nearest planet capable of repairing spaceships. Oh? Don't you need help? Alalay is very good at beating bad guys. After Yongdu disappeared from the screen, Rayleigh, who had laughed enough, also got up from the ground, boasting to Xingju in the classic posture of a strongman. No, this is my own business. Xingju shook his head. He actually believed in Yongdu's statement more. Because of this, he couldn't let these children who were also from the Earth take risks with him, even if their strength was not weak. Alright, but I can help you fix things like spaceship repairs. Kraft shrugged and didn't refuse Xingju's kindness. Anyway, it would be a big deal to sneak in with him. It wasn't that Kraft wanted to help Xingju in particular, although his practice of not pulling others into the water made Kraft quite satisfied, but it was not to the extent that he had to help. It's just that Igo didn't appear in his memory fragments, so Kraft guessed that even if he was strong, he was also weaker than Thanos. It was just a test to estimate Thanos' strength. What extent? Because it will take some time for his Milano to be repaired, Peter Quill and his pink-skinned alien girlfriend can only stay on the cross for a while. Then they saw a lot of scenes out of common sense. Are you serious about building a farm on the spaceship? After Xingju visited the lower area of the Cross Pioneer, his whole person was dumbfounded. Lush fruit forests, golden wheat waves, sparkling fish ponds, and livestock such as chickens, ducks, cattle and sheep running on the green grass. This scene once gave Xingju the illusion that he had suddenly returned to Earth. No way, it's the first time I leave the Earth. God knows if I can get used to eating extraterrestrial food. I definitely have to prepare a little more. The actual head of Death Vanguard, Kraft Lee, the deputy captain of the Cross Vanguard, answered Star-Lord at that time. But let alone, being able to eat food from the Earth for a long time has moved Peter Quill inexplicably. In addition to the exaggerated farm and the playground that I saw before, there is also a well-equipped electronic game room, which contains not only the various ancient game consoles from Peter Quill's childhood memories, but also the new Earth in the past few decades, out of the computer and console games. There are even some game consoles that are only available in dreams, including the virtual stealth game called Nerve Gear. These things made Peter Quill linger, and even almost forgot to find Igo. In addition, There is the Naku full of fighters and robots of various shapes, a collection room displaying different styles of armor, many laboratories with obviously different functions, and a bunch of Peter Quill's roots. Strange technological product that doesn't understand the principle. All the things shown here make Peter Quill start to wonder if he and Kraft are from the same Earth. When did the Earth's technology reach this level? However, what shocked Mr. Shingju the most was the little girl named Alale. She easily pierced through the steel plate more than 10 inches thick. She grabbed the heavy machinery and equipment just like it was made of plastic foam. Same. My sister has that strength. When Kraft said so proudly, Peter Quill happened to see Rayleigh holding a small fighter jet running past his eyes. Is this just a little bit stronger? Peter Quill felt that if he continued to stay here, his common sense would be completely broken. Starju. Come on. Didn't you say that you were the best pilot among the predators? Today we will fight against the air. The Shiba Inu named Quinn who can walk upright let out a cry from a distance. Ha ha ha. Now let you see the power of Lord Shingju. Peter Quill instantly put his previous worries behind him, ran into the video game room, and got into a virtual cockpit with him. 10 minutes later, Peter Quill crawled out of the virtual cockpit with a face of collapse, and Quinn, who also came out next to him, looked contemptuous, and made an inverted thumbs gesture with his dog paw. The best pilot among the predators. This is it? Shame. Sufficient to speak. Our Mr. Shingju lowered his head with humiliation. In addition to all kinds of doubts about life, this kobold's poisonous way of speaking also affected Peter Quill, and I don't know when he was also infected with similar language habits. I'm going to pee. Shingju, whose cowhide was torn apart, had no choice but to urinate. Hey. Hey. Ha 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 ha. On the way to the toilet, a swift figure suddenly smashed through the wall beside him and rushed out, and then smashed through the other wall before Peter Quill could react, and disappeared, leaving only a series of cheerful laughter. Mr. Shingju has long been accustomed to this situation, and he even has the mood to beckon to the faraway Rayleigh. Surprised. The beckoning Shingju suddenly froze. He has become more and more accustomed to this abnormal life, and this damn mouth addiction. No. Can't stay any longer. Shingju quickly changed his direction, planning to go to Kraft and ask himself when the spacecraft could be repaired. Well, can you take me to find Kraft? Shingju stopped a passing intelligent robot and asked. Intelligent robots are not uncommon in the interstellar society, but these robots with human bodies but with a spherical head look really weird. Originally, Shingju thought this was the peculiar aesthetic of those bear children, but he later discovered by accident that the body of this intelligent robot was actually just the spherical head, and the human body was just a vehicle. So what is the point of using robots to manipulate robots? Wouldn't it be fine if you just make one? Harrow, who was stopped, stared at Shingju for a while, actually informing Kraft who was studying the new infinite gems. After obtaining his consent, Harrow replied, "Please follow me. Please follow me." He followed Harrow to Kraft's laboratory. As soon as Shingju entered the door, he couldn't wait to ask, "When will my Marana be repaired? I want to go to Ego as soon as possible to ask for clarity." Your spaceship? Kraft blinked. It was fixed a long time ago. Didn't I inform you? Kraft, who had been nesting in the laboratory recently, completely forgot about this. Seeing Shingju's constipation on his face, he scratched his head in embarrassment. Haha. Oh, there is nothing wrong with this. Anyway, you have been kept in the dark for so many years, and it is not bad for 1 or 2 days. Kraft's comforting words always left people speechless, and Shingju's constipation face became more serious. Originally, Shingju thought that Kraft, the older brother, would be a little more normal, but he didn't expect it to be a fraud. Rejecting the invitation of Kraft's farewell banquet, Shingju took the pink-skinned alien girl who had been forgotten by him again to board his Milano, and left the Cross Vanguard without looking back. Throwing the alien girl named Barrett on the nearest civilized planet, Shingju located the coordinates given to him by Yongdu, and drove the spaceship to the planet of Ego. At this time, Kraft's Cross had already reached Eagle's planet first, and then he accidentally discovered that another spacecraft had also arrived here. At the moment it was hovering on Eagle's planet, in outer space. Brother, it's a Predator's spacecraft. Angela quickly confirmed the identity of the other party. Yongdu. Since the Cross Pioneer had an invisible force field, Kraft and the others were not discovered by the Predators, and he did not choose to meet them with Yongdu. Instead, he began to circle the planet of Ego and began to drop probes on it. What a big face. Rayleigh lay in front of the observation screen of the Cross Pioneer, pointing to the planet on the screen and yelling in surprise. Kraft glanced at the screen and saw that a human face was clearly visible on this red planet. What's this? Is nature's supernatural work? Although he said that, Kraft felt that this face was more likely to be man-made, although he didn't know the meaning of carving a face on the planet. Brother, let's make a face on the pirate star. Aurelie seemed to like this design very much, and she tugged at Kraft's sleeve and suggested, and the pirate star in her mouth is naturally Kraft's space base that is still under construction. Since she has not yet said a name, she shouted something. Both, like Kraft, still used to call it Death Star. I agree, we will be able to carve our planet like Aurelie by then. Angela controlled her mechanical body and ran over, touched Alayle's head and said with a smile. It's up to you. Kraft doesn't have any objections, as long as the sisters are happy. Great. Just as they were talking and laughing, Xingju finally got out of the jumping point in his Milano. As soon as Peter Quill appeared, he was stopped by the Predator spacecraft that had been waiting for a long time. Kraft didn't know exactly what Star-Lord was talking about after returning to the Predator. Anyway, after a while, the Milano flew out of the Predator's spacecraft again, and then landed on the planet of Ego. At this time, the probes that Kraft sprinkled down also collected most of the data on the planet. The material on it was nothing special. Although there were some elements that Kraft had not seen, they did not, beyond his understanding. The only special thing is that there is a special kind of energy hidden in all the substances on this planet, and this energy connects them with this planet. But after these substances are separated from the planet, the trace of energy hidden in them will soon after dissipating. Kraft has no way to study further. However, this investigation also allowed Kraft to discover a weakness that is not considered a weakness of Ego. His control of his planet does not seem to be very high. Not to mention Kraft's small movements of collecting materials. The Predator and Peter Quill's movements in outer space are still quite large, but he hasn't reacted at all until now. Then Kraft watched from the surveillance screen as the Milano flew to the vicinity of a palace building. Such a big movement finally shocked the people inside, and two humanoid creatures, a man and a woman, walked out of the palace. The appearance of a man is the same as that of a human being. It seems that he is already in age. If he is the father of Peter Quill, judging from the growth rate of the Earth people, this age state is not a problem. In addition, from the appearance point of view, the face of this man is very similar to the face on the planet, so there is a high probability that it is the so-called Igo. The appearance of women is more in line with the fantasy of aliens on Earth, with a pair of long tentacles on their heads. In addition to that, the area of the iris is relatively large, and the whites of the eyes are almost invisible. The other aspects are not different from ordinary humans. Big. Who are you? When Xingju jumped off the spaceship, the older man frowned and asked. Peter Jason Quill, Xingju replied word by word, son of Meredith Quill. Peter. There was a pleasant smile on Ego's face. He opened his arms and wanted to step forward to hug Xingju. I finally saw you, my child, I didn't expect you to be alive. Hey. Wait. Our relationship is not so close. Xingju took 2 steps back, avoiding Eagle's hug. Well, I can understand. A trace of frustration flashed across Ego's face, and then he spread his hands helplessly. It is normal for you to complain to me, Peter, but please believe that I have always wanted to get you back, but the universe is too big, and I thought you already. Igo paused at this point, then smiled again. But fortunately, you are still alive, and you found here by yourself. So you are really my father? Xingju's attitude made Xingju hesitation, but he still did not forget Yongdu's reminder. Then what are you going to do to me? Just like your other children. Am I mysteriously missing? This is a misunderstanding, Peter. Whether it is you or Yongdu, you have misunderstood me. Igo quickly explained, I haven't done anything to them. This is a bit complicated to say. Before this, I had to tell you about myself. Ego beckoned to Xingju, motioning him to follow him into the palace behind him. Xingju hesitation for a moment, but still followed. And the surveillance bug developed by Kraft based on the stagnant loop was also attached to Xingju's body, and Ego was unaware of this. Although his strength seemed to be strong, his perception did not seem to be excellent. The 3 of them walked into the palace, and Igo began to explain his origins to Xingju. It turned out that he was not an alien, he was an alien. The planet under everyone's feet is Ego's body. No wonder there will be his big face on this planet. Kraft twitched his mouth. At first, he thought that Eagle was a magician similar to Ancient One. After all, he didn't see anything particularly technological on his planet, but he looked mysterious. And Kraft and the things he made basically didn't have any ability to deal with the mysterious side power, so he was hesitation before whether or not to go to get through with Igor. But after knowing his body, Kraft didn't worry for a while, dealing with planets or something, is there any existence better than Aurelie? Then Igo talked about Peter Quill's half-brothers and sisters. According to him, those children weren't killed by him, but because they couldn't bear his power, they would be after a certain age. Die. Igo asked Yongdu to help him collect his children because he wanted to find a way to extend their lives, but it was a pity that he failed. I always thought you were dead, Peter. Igo said affectionately. You can survive without incident, which means you must have succeeded in inheriting my ability. A blue light appeared between Yi Ji's hands, and then under his control, it slowly condensed into a bunch of colorful flowers. Come and see, you must be able to do it, like me. Hold up your hands, close your eyes, and then concentrate. Let your thoughts enter the center of the planet. Eagle slowly guided Xingju, and Xingju followed his instructions and began to communicate the mysterious power on this planet. After a while, accompanied by a sizzling, electric current sound, the blue light appeared between Xingju's hands. Yes. That's it. Ego yelled emotionally. I knew you could do it, Peter. But what about my mother? And what about my brothers? The light between his hands dissipated, and Peter Quill calmed down again after his excitement. No matter how beautiful Igo was, he couldn't hide the fact that he had abandoned his mother and that he had so many offspring. I told you before that loneliness made me look for other lives in the universe, but they all disappointed me. Igo again talked about his mental journey of searching for his own meaning. He made so many children, just wanting to successfully create a descendant who inherited the genes of the gods, and then swallow the entire universe with him. Now, I finally found you, Peter. I'm not alone anymore. Igo thrilled to the sky and screamed, so you don't love my mother anymore? Xingju didn't feel happy at all. He quietly pressed a button near his belt, sending out a distress signal that he had prepared long ago to Yongdu in space. No, Peter, your mother is the only person I have ever loved, my water lily. Ego denied Xingju's statement. I have returned to Earth to visit her 3 times, but I know if I go back 4 times, I might not leave. A look of regret and sadness appeared on Igo's face. So, I had to make her suffer from a brain tumor. This really broke my heart. Before he finished speaking, he was pierced by Xingju's bullet. You killed my mother. The angry Xingju quickly pulled the trigger and shot Yi into a sieve. I wanted to reach eternity with you, but it seems that you can only be a battery for 1,000 years and grow slowly. After being beaten into a sieve, Yi recovered his body in the blink of an eye. He was so angry that he summoned the tentacles formed by huge amounts of blue light and pierced Xingju. A spaceship smashed into the palace and rushed in, and rammed straight towards Eagle, not only protecting Peter Quill from the attack of the tentacles of light, but also smashing Eagle's avatar into a cloud of blue shards. Quill. Come on up. The predators didn't want to fight for Xingju's life, so only Yongdu came to the rescue this time. Yongdu? It's you again? Repeatedly undermining my plan, is the predator doing business like this? The angry eagle turned into a giant made up of Eagle's blue light, and he controlled a large number of light tentacles and swept past Yongdu's spacecraft. The red beam sword swept across, severing Igo's blue tentacles. Who is it again? The obstacles that appeared over and over again were about to blow Igo up. The deputy captain of the pirate Death Pioneer, Kraft Lee, meet for the first time, Mr. Eagle, or Master Celestial. Controlling the pirate Gundam fell in front of Igo, and Kraft's joking voice came out of Gundam.